What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. Pirate Ocean Fruit, one of Chapter 1's strange news advertisement. Timeline. The protagonist is 3 years older than Luffy, and went to sea 3 years earlier than Luffy. Close black lens bracket. This book is based on domineering and fruit complementing each other. The fruit must be matched with domineering to be more powerful, because this fruit controls seawater, can cause tsunamis and sea earthquakes, dragons absorb water, etc., but when encountering someone like Aokiji, Yamato will be naturally restrained. Therefore, it is necessary to combine Haki and adhere to the seawater, just like the bullet fusion fruit. This fruit is not invincible upon appearance, but the upper limit is very high and needs to be developed slowly. My setting is that it can awaken into the form of the phantom beast Poseidon in the later stage. Close black lens bracket. Another point is that the protagonist kills less in the early stage, mainly focusing on the passionate life in One Piece. Please don't talk about the Holy Mother. The protagonist will not let go of any enemies he kills later, just like Momonosuke. These are the settings of this book. Readers who think these are poisonous points should give up this book. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket dads, squirt gently. Close black lens bracket. Since the Battle of the Valley of the Gods many years ago, except for the general taking over, there has been very little news that can make waves in this sea area. On this day, a piece of slightly strange news was placed in the Fleet Admiral office of Marinefondo. Ah ha 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 ha. Mr. Garp's voice is like a bell. Even if his mouth is full of donuts, it is difficult to cover up his voice. It seems that it can turn over the Fleet Admiral office. Warring States angrily scolded Garp with a disgusted look on his face. Shut up. You will eat everything I just asked Xiaohei to bring. White smoke rose from Warring State's head. Obviously he was very angry. Lieutenant General, he looked at Garp's proud smile and his face was full of black lines. What are you laughing at? Is it another Sokofia food festival? This food festival is a feature of the Sokofia Kingdom, a kingdom under the world government. A kingdom famous for its gourmet food. There are more than 3,700 kinds of meat delicacies alone, not to mention as many as 4,000 to 5,000 kinds of desserts. When the festival comes, all the countries in the world will send some people over to see if they can harvest some new varieties of cuisine, and even pirates will come here. It was a rare summit, but the year before last, 4 emperors, Charlotte Linlin directly sent her second son Katakuri to kidnap many chefs in the kingdom. As a last resort, Marine asked the world government for help. Since it was the power of the 4 emperors, Marine had no choice but to send a general to pressure them and force them away. After all, I traveled across a continent to find a chef, and she was the only one who could make it. Every year, Garp takes a boat there. The so-called inspection is actually just laziness and eating. After all, who can resist delicious barbecue and fragrant donuts? No, ha ha ha, don't be angry, I will ask the deputy to bring me another boatload of donuts later. Garp. I told you not to send warships to transport donuts anymore. Hearing what Garp said, Crane said helplessly. Okay, I know. What else can make an old guy like you smile? Could it be that your grandson is starting to behave? As soon as he heard Lieutenant General he talking about his grandson, Garp had a dark look on his face. Apparently, thinking about his grandson who had been clamoring to be a pirate gave him a headache. Garp pushed the newspaper to them, and Sengoku burst out laughing after reading it. Even he, who had always been aloof, couldn't help laughing. The newspaper reported something. On the 17th, the world government's top espionage organization, CP0, captured an orangutan. 1 person was seriously injured and 3 were slightly injured. It was defeated. It was a sensation. The report this time only contained a few words, and since it was related to the world government secret organization, many were naturally deleted. You know, the world government's highest level espionage organization has a reputation. Both in terms of strength and control, they are recognized as powerful. It is really unbelievable that only 1 ape was captured this time but was seriously injured. He and Warring States just laughed for a moment, and then found some clues in the news. The office suddenly became quiet, with only the sounds of Garp chewing donuts and a goat rubbing its horns. Someone finally broke the silence, and he said slowly, I'm afraid the nobles can't wait to get something that they can focus on. What could that be? Fruit or map? Or what news? He looks like a wise man and his analysis is quite sharp. After all, the world government and Marine are only in a vassal relationship, and there are some things that Marine has to guard against. Yes, I think it should be fruit. Warring States took over and said. Then he pointed with his hand and said in a deep voice. Look at the place where they fought. Advertisement, near the Valley of the Gods. Crane couldn't help but wonder. That's right, it was near the Valley of the Gods back then, but now there are other islands floating around. The Valley of the Gods, which was very prosperous at that time, also disappeared without a trace after the War of the Gods. Even in history, only bits and pieces can be recorded, and no specific events about the war can be found at all. After Garp heard, Valley of the Gods, he also put the donuts in his hands aside. Regarding the Valley of Gods, he also became serious. After all, a force had fallen there that he and former One Piece Roger had to work together to deal with. Rocks. Garp muttered. On the Great Line, on a certain sea area, a small boat was floating on the sea. Hoo. A person gasped. Use your huge palms to hold down several bleeding wounds on your body. Fortunately, I wasn't caught by those guys, but I finally got this fruit. The man looked at the blue fruit in front of him. But the fruit that even these people have to fight to the death to protect should have terrifying power, right? Wow 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 wow. A baby cried, interrupting his soliloquy. This is really bad. Why are there human babies on that uninhabited island? He picked up the baby's clothes with one hand, looked at it curiously, and then shook it in his hand like a pendulum clock. An envelope-like piece of paper swayed out when he shook it like this. Rox D. Swain. Oh, little guy, it turns out your name is Swain. Wait. Rox? He exclaimed. Naturally, he was very familiar with this surname. His eyes closed slightly, as if he thought of something. He comes from a special race, the H***** Sapiens clan. This race is naturally gifted with the ability to learn various abilities. However, now he is the only one left, because they committed a great sin. It has something to do with the pirate named Rox. Just because of this, the world government sent killers to kill all the members of its clan. When he was young, he watched that bloody scene and it is still unforgettable. The hatred in his heart became deeper and deeper as time went by. Rox, the Battle of the Valley of the Gods. What happened? It has also been explored before, but nothing was found. The last time it went there was more than 10 years ago. It saw its own face reflected through the sea, and couldn't help but touch it, and its beard had turned white. Even though he has seen the power of the celestial dragons, his heart for revenge has never been extinguished. Looking at the baby in front of me, I couldn't calm down for a long time. Perhaps, I can use him to complete my revenge. What if he is the descendant of that pirate? Rox, a pirate who came to an end in the last era, has 3 of his crew members who are today's 4 emperors, and one of them is the legendary pirate Golden Lion. No matter what, he is a legend. With his eyes closed, it seemed as if his body could not help but tremble when he recalled how powerful the person was. I don't know if it's fear or excitement of hope. Advertisement. Chapter 2 Rox D. Swain Advertisement. The world is like this, there will always be people who are happy and people who are sad. Damn it, what should I do, boss? Said a man wearing a ghost mask. What can I do? I'm afraid I will be imprisoned directly if I go back this time, or even become a slave of the nobles. The man who was called the boss replied. He also wears a blue ogre mask. Under his hoarse voice, he looks like a ghost. But at this moment, he was as scared as a ghost. Faced with the possibility of becoming a slave of the celestial dragon, his body was trembling. After all, he was truly exposed to the darkness. Diva, does that monkey look familiar to you? He said in a slightly dull voice. It seems to be the extinct species of wise apes. He remembered it after the boss reminded him. Wasn't this race exterminated 37 years ago? Yes, they are so smart. No matter what they learn, they are far ahead of us humans, but they should never have participated in that battle. Yes, otherwise we wouldn't have sent the knights to annihilate them. It seems that they are not extinct, boss. You mean, but this doesn't seem to be able to offset our mistakes. The CP0 agent named Dewa looked very confused, as if he didn't understand why the boss would ask this. You don't need to overcome it, you just need to draw out the mistakes, and then focus on the wise ape family. After the masters hear this, they will naturally take this mistake lightly. Instead, they will be interested in this special race. This method is really wonderful, Dewa said in surprise, and the smile on his decorated face looked terrifying. But boss, this monkey is too strong, and its strength is probably comparable to that of a general. Yeah, I didn't expect this beast to actually have conquerors, and his attainments are not low, and he has become a strong man. There are so many powerful people in this sea, he said half with emotion and half with surprise. Beep 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 beep. A series of whistles sounded in front of them. It was the marine ship. After revealing their identities, they temporarily boarded the ship and sailed to Marineland. The other side. H***** Sapiens took a baby to an unknown island. The surrounding sea was empty for hundreds of miles, and there was no sign of any life. The central island looked vibrant, in sharp contrast to the surroundings. The wise ape is holding a blue devil fruit in his left hand. It looks crystal clear, with several ripples around the fruit. There is a little baby in his right hand. The baby is still dancing with his hands and feet, looking very cute. Damn it, why did you travel through time and become a little brat? But when the words came out, they turned into awe. Yes, this baby is a time traveler, a pirate-loving fan from another world. The ape couldn't help but look at him, thinking he was hungry, so he took a banana from his pocket and forced it into his mouth. Hey, don't you know that babies need to be fed? Swain complained silently in his heart. Seeing that Swain was very excited, after eating and stopped barking, he felt very satisfied, and the look he looked at him was like a teachable child. Advertisement: if Swain wasn't still in the infant stage, his face would definitely be covered in black lines now. The orangutan screamed to the surroundings, and suddenly the forest a few meters in front sounded the sound of flapping birds and animals. Several seagulls were frightened by the sound and hurriedly fluttered into the air until they turned into black spots and disappeared on the distant mountains. The island is surrounded by rocks. The beach not far away is covered with shells, which are obviously left after the tide recedes. There are also some scattered crabs, which are trying their best to dig holes as it gets dark. Woo! Swain faced the ape and gestured with his hands. He was really choking on the banana at the moment. Don't underestimate this small move, it is very likely to be fatal to the child. But how can an ape know the common sense of taking care of a child, let alone a baby? Swain burst into tears, but maybe it was God's protection, and he no longer felt choked after more than 10 seconds. What does that feel like? Swain asked silently in his heart. It turned out that just when he thought he was about to choke to death, a gentle stream of air flowed through his mouth, allowing him to slow down his breathing. Is it because of my own physical strength? After all, he didn't care too much. After all, he was still a baby and his hair hadn't even grown yet. Thinking too much about these things will only increase your worries. However, he may not have thought that this invisible life-saving airflow-like substance is Conqueror's domineering power. Of course, these are all things for another day. The orangutan casually threw him somewhere in the house, causing him to scream in pain. Do you think I'm some kind of rare race? I still have the physique of the Lunarian clan with Kaido's deputy. I am a human being, but he couldn't understand Swain's whining complaints, so he left alone to prepare tonight's dinner. Swain lay helplessly on the ground, but he had a small thought in his heart. What time is it now? I don't know if Ace and Luffy have gone to sea. When you come to this world by accident, you must make a good living, live your own freedom, and try your best to help those who are oppressed by the Tianlong people. Swain secretly made up his mind and grew up under the red flag for more than 20 years. Every time he saw in the pirate world, there were people who had their families destroyed for the enjoyment of the celestial dragons, and people who could not return home for their own selfishness. Previous Shichibukai Bear's life experience proves everything. The Golden Emperor Tezuro's first love when he was young was also attracted by the scumbags of the Tianlong people, and was eventually reduced to a toy like a plaything, and finally committed suicide. If I were in the same situation as me, I would probably commit suicide in shame and anger. I can't even protect my lover and family, and I would be a corpse even if I were alive. But he respected the experiences of these strong men. Let's make it clear, this world respects the strong. Swain was fully aware of this when he was following the comics. Especially when Doflamingo was captured into Impel Down City, the conversation with Lieutenant General Crane deepened this concept. But it also reminded him that the pirate world he saw was one of happiness and freedom. But that's just one aspect. The real pirate world still has the original law of the jungle. Once you reach the level of 4 emperors, even the world government cannot invade your territory at will. He refrained from crying and began to crawl on the ground. Although he struggled to climb, he almost stayed on the same spot. He looked like he was squirming on the ground, which was quite cute. Ouch, I'm so angry. How come you can't even crawl? He looked up at the table a few meters in front of him, and there was a blue fruit. The ripples on it seemed to be carved on it, making it look more like an exquisite handicraft. Let me taste what this fruit tastes like. He was very curious. What did devil fruit taste like? Was it really as unpleasant as the legend said? Advertisement Chapter 3 Eat fruit when you are hungry. Advertisement. Beep 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 beep. A quick call rang in the office, and it took a while before anyone answered. Hole. If you don't have anything important to do, just wake me up. When I come back, I'll go to the prison and look at the gate. Don Quixote, Doflamingo, was sitting in his recliner, answering the phone call that woke him from his nap. Report, young master. Things have changed. The voice on the other end of the phone was obviously a little uneasy. That's right. I guess you won't receive today's newspaper until tomorrow at the latest. Moreover, Marine has also strictly restricted information in this regard. The ocean fruits transported by CP0 were robbed by strange enemies on the way. Oh, that's really an interesting thing. Doflamingo hummed and laughed. One person was seriously injured, 3 were slightly injured, a big defeat. The strength is estimated to be at the level of a general. Doflamingo gave a brief analysis to the young master on the phone. Well, continue to monitor it. Try to find out as much news about this fruit as possible. Little Lord. Is this fruit important? How does it compare to the devil fruit that was lost some time ago? Doflamingo, who was still young, started a business selling devil fruits. HMPH. Last time at the auction, the devil fruit was placed on the stage without any intervention from the celestial dragons. This time the fruit was directly transported by the highest level watchdog. What do you think? Doflamingo was obviously a little angry. Yes, I will try my best to find its traces, please don't worry. Click. Doflamingo hung up the phone. He leaned his head on the lounge chair, and the strong sunlight penetrated his eyes from the window. He covered his face with the logbook on the desk next to him with his backhand, and murmured, will there really be people from the D family in the future generation to crusade? Then he slept there quietly. The beautiful maid who was about to deliver the meal saw him resting and gently placed the dessert on the table and then left. Whoa, I want to eat. Unlike Doflamingo, who had a maid to deliver meals, Swain was obviously trying to survive in the wilderness and couldn't find anything he could eat in this wooden house. Then he looked at the blue fruit placed on the table. Let me have a taste of what this tastes like. He was really hungry, even though he knew that eating the fruit might turn him into a landlubber, and he might gain all kinds of abilities, even as useless as the fence fruit. But since he took over the baby's body, he hasn't eaten for 3 days, and the only thing he's eaten is half a banana. This is why the human body in the One Piece world is relatively strong. A 2-year-old child can survive for 3 days without eating. Swain struggled to move a wooden block from somewhere else. After moving it, he was already out of breath. He wiped the sweat from his face with his little withered hands. That's it, ouch. He accidentally dropped the fruit along with him, and the fruit hit his face. He screamed in pain and decided to eat this fruit to vent his anger. Peefed. Swain took one bite and it was really tender and juicy. After eating most of the food, he was already full. After all, he was only 2 years old and didn't have much appetite. Speaking of being unpalatable, he didn't find it as unpalatable as the legend said, and then he fell asleep. When he woke up again, his ears were pinched by apes. Whoa 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 whoa. Swain burst into tears instantly because it hurt so much. Did you eat this? The ape pointed at the half-eaten devil fruit on the table. Although he came from time travel, he could understand what he said, and then Swain nodded with tears in his eyes. At the same time, he did not forget to look at him with his big, sincere and harmless eyes, as if to say that he had no choice but to do so. Don't blame me. Advertisement, would it be asterisk 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 D, he said with a dark face. Looking at your young age, I will spare you this time. You can't eat randomly next time. The ape warned him in a low voice. Although it was just a warning, Swain still felt a touch of warmth. It turns out that I blame myself for eating randomly. It's not because I ate the fruit he snatched. In fact, when the orangutans carried him into the island, Swain carefully observed that he was not an isolated island he found randomly, but a place where he should live for a long time. However, this place was too remote and there were no islands around it. What islands and traces of human activity? One more thing. Swain discovered that he seemed to have been living alone for many years. Doesn't he have any clansmen? Or similar people? And based on his appearance and movement, he should be like Chopper. Gululu. Swain's stomach growled again, protesting why there was no food. The orangutan looked at him, put some tinder in a pit, and began to cook barbecue. Bah, bah, bah. The aroma of barbecue had spread, and Swain didn't even blink. He just swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva, and his little hands seemed to have nowhere to put them. For you to eat. Be careful, it's a little hot now. Swain quickly caught it and prepared to bite into it, but then pushed the barbecue to the ape. I'm not hungry now, you can eat first. Watching Swain devouring meat, the orangutan always had a smile on his face. But as he smiled, there were tears in his eyes. Although Swain can't speak yet, he can gesture with his hands to ask why he is crying. The orangutan touched Swain's head kindly and said, I. There was also a lot of family. After hearing this, Swain understood that no matter how passionate and free the world was, only the strong deserved it. The atmosphere seemed very calm at this point. The ape probably realized that he should not show such emotions, and then changed the topic. My name is Warri. Speaking of which, it's quite interesting that you little guy is actually related to the Great Pirate Rocks. Swain was very surprised when he heard this. I have something to do with rocks? I couldn't help but say in my heart, this body has too little memory. He only knows his name. His mother is a beautiful dancer. As for his father, I don't know. Because he has not seen his father since he was born, he only remembers that his mother said that his father went to sea during her pregnancy in order to find traces of his grandfather. Could it be that my grandfather was the Great Pirate Rocks? But he just had a flash of inspiration. After all, he is still too young and there is no benefit in knowing too much. You can't speak? Wally asked twice before interrupting Swain's thinking. Swain quickly shook his head, saying that he didn't know how to read and it was difficult to speak. He was separated from his mother due to war when he was 1 year old, and had been living on the original abandoned island until Warri rescued him. During this period, I had no contact with the outside world at all. If I can understand it, it is all the soul of the youth of the 21st century that is responding. I'll teach you how to read tomorrow. Warri made arrangements for Swain for tomorrow. No, I don't want to study, Swain whined in protest, but the protest was ineffective. At night, with the bright moon in the sky, several coconut trees fell in the wind. Achoo! Swain sneezed, then wrapped himself tightly in the leaves. In the direction of the sneeze, the sea surface became rough a few miles away, with waves tens of meters high, and then calmed down again after a while. Advertisement Chapter 4 The True Power of the Fruit? Advertisement, I learned well today. I have been teaching for a month. It was dusk, the sun was setting in the west, leaving a patch of residual sun staining the sky. Wally gestured with branches on the beach to teach Swain how to read. This is too easy for Swain. He thought it was so difficult at first, just sprinkle it with water. Mr. Woe, why haven't you seen the fleet coming in a month? After Swain didn't know what to call him at first, he suddenly remembered that Ace called Garp, old man. He could also call the middle-aged man in front of him, old man, without losing the intimacy. Wally was silent for a moment, looking forward, and Swain also looked over. A piece of blue ocean, endless as far as the eye can see, the sea and the sky meet at the end. It is very beautiful and shocking. Is it spectacular? This 100-mile radius is called the Sea of Silence of Death. Sea of Silence of Death. It was Swain's turn to be confused. After all, this sea area was not included in one piece he had read. The geographical location of this place is unique. There are dozens of times more Poseidon species on the seabed than other places. The ships that come and go, unless they are very powerful fleets like the Emperor of the Sea, can't even set foot here. After hearing this, Swain suddenly realized that in fact, the one piece he had seen in his previous life only showed a small aspect. After all, the world is so big, there will always be some strange places. And this, Sea of Silence of Death, is the part that is not shown. Then why don't we have anything? After waiting for a moment and not hearing an answer, Swain looked at Warri with confusion. Warri didn't answer, just turned and walked away. Because they made an agreement with a certain race, not to kill each other. The waves are still rolling on the seaside, as if they are beating the oath that has been guarded for many years. The next morning. What kind of power does the fruit you eat have? I don't know either, it shouldn't be a devil fruit. Otherwise, why haven't I felt any special abilities until now? In the past month of tutoring, Warri not only taught him literacy, but also taught him many rules and common sense of the world. Although Swain had known about the existence of devil fruit for a long time, he benefited a lot after hearing Warri's different opinions. How could it be? This is a fruit that the celestial dragons attach great importance to. Is it to deceive others? The real fruit has been stolen? But it seems unreasonable. If the package was switched, why would CP0 be dispatched to deliver it? Come here. Swain stood in front of Warri. After the two had been together for a month, they had already understood each other, so they were naturally unprepared. With a swipe sound, Swain was thrown far away by Warri. "Ah, what are you doing, old man?" It fell into the sea with a splash. "Swim up yourself," Warri shouted, but as soon as Swain fell into the sea, all his strength was inexplicably drained away, leaving him paralyzed. Swain's consciousness was gradually blurring. I have indeed become a landlubber. When Warri saw Swain thrown into the sea, he realized it without even bubbling up. He had already arrived at Swain's landing point almost as quickly as he turned around, and saw Swain slowly drooping like a soft-legged shrimp in the sea. What's even more dangerous is that there is a huge black shadow below Swain. Poseidon class. Why are you coming out at this time? Warri frowned under the sea. He held Swain in his arms. The Poseidon had a pair of sharp horns, was articulate, and had fangs that looked like sharp swords. It also had a body that was 10 meters long. It looked very oppressive, and it quickly tended to think. Because here, Wally was not in a hurry, with a playful look in his eyes. Advertisement. His eyes stared slightly, and a red light film spread from all sides, with flickering lightning, and rushed towards the Poseidon at the same time. CCCCC. Poseidon didn't dare to rush forward and stopped hastily. It knows that if it offends this person who is not as big as it may really turn into a roasted fish, because it has seen too many companions who do not know how to live or die, and it dares to invade a human with such an imposing manner. It can't even find the fish bones. This is a real strong man. When Warri saw that the Poseidon stopped sprinting forward, he glanced at it and was so frightened that he froze in place and did not dare to move. Warri didn't care about it, he stayed underwater for a little too long. Cough cough cough. Swain put his hands on the ground, his face turned pale and he was choked by the water. Old man, you are too unreliable, Swain said in a stilted voice. Warri also felt quite embarrassed, so he patted him on the back and explained, I just want to test whether you are a capable person. Now it seems you are, but what are your abilities? I don't know that either. Wally looked at Swain lying on the ground, thinking deeply, trying to understand what kind of ability he would have. Huh? Warri asked in confusion. Why is there so much water around you? Swain also looked around, and sure enough there was a lot of water. Moreover, the climate on this island was mild, and the two of them did not wear too many clothes, just simple shields, which should not bring out so much moisture. In this way, Swain's ability is a bit intriguing. You raise your hands to the sea, Wally ordered Swain to say. He quickly followed it because he was also curious about what abilities he would have. After all, you can't really get trivial abilities like the fence fruit when you come to this world, right? And some powerful fruits can really improve one's combat power, and sometimes even change the situation of the battle. Just like Kaido and Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors. Their fruit abilities all have the ability to change the situation of the battle. In fact, before falling into the sea, he really expected to eat something other than a devil fruit. But it's useless to say anything now, he raised his hand towards the sea. However, nothing happened. Isn't it the power of this fruit? Warri had some doubts in his heart. Concentrate and try again. He spoke in a more serious tone this time, obviously worried that Swain would become distracted. Swain did as he was told once more. Sure enough, there is a change this time. After seeing the scene in front of him, Warri's face became solemn. I saw a seawall tens of meters high rolling up on the coast in front of me, and strong winds were blowing around me at the same time. It's that ability, Warri said. What kind of ability? Although Swain was already a little certain in his heart. Ocean fruit. The ability to be loved by the sea. The top fruit in Logia. The legend has been lost for hundreds of years. The world government has been trying to recover it, but this fruit seems to be alive and disappears again and again. After hearing this, Swain also opened his mouth and was very surprised. Ocean fruit. As the name suggests, this fruit is invincible in this sea. You said your fleet is powerful. Then how should you respond if I roll up a 100-meter wave? You say your ability is powerful. Then how should you respond if I have the ability of a sea rock? In short, anyone with the ability to possess this fruit is considered a loser. He can also become one of the kings of this sea. Advertisement. Chapter 5. The young man's promise. Advertisement. Time flies so fast. 1 year has passed in the blink of an eye. Old man, can you tell me some other knowledge? I'm almost tired of hearing the history you talk about. After spending more than a year with Wally, Swain truly saw what a true scholar is. Yes. Warri also discussed history with O'Hara scholars. You brat, this is what you need to learn. History has been blackened by the Tianlong people. I taught you that you have to pass it on, idiot. But old man, it takes a long time to study anyway, can you teach me something else? So what do you want to study? Wally asked Swain patiently. He also saw that Swain might not be able to listen now. I want to learn Marine 6 styles. Yes, Marine 6 type. This is a combat skill that every Marine must learn. When little Kirby joined Marine, he was taught these things by cards. I won't. You're lying, old man. I used it the last time I saw you hunting. That's impossible to teach you, so don't be wishful thinking. Why? You are still too young to practice these things that your body cannot bear. But didn't the old man say? Swain began to talk to Warri while shaking his head. Do strong people only have to undergo tests from a young age to become strong? And I have a little more control over my abilities now. After speaking, he stretched out his palm, which covered a water column the size of fiberglass. Go! Swain yelled, and the water column hit the roof, making a big hole in the house. Look, my strength is not bad, old man. Swain looked at Warri proudly, waiting for him to praise him. Warri's face was filled with black lines as he looked at the big hole in the roof. You brat. You definitely don't want to study. As he spoke, he raised his big palm and slapped Swain on the butt. The result was predicted and naturalized by Swain in advance, and it was considered to be a wash of hands for Warri. Then Swain distanced himself from Warri and stood in midair. Ahahaha. You can't fight. This was when Swain accidentally fell down while picking coconuts and discovered that he could float in the air. This surprised him because he could fly freely in the air just like the Superman he dreamed of when he was a child. But, it's just a bit slow. Then he discovered that the condition that triggers flight is that it can fly wherever there is sea, which means that once it reaches the center of the island, it cannot fly. The investigation resulted in him falling and hurting himself, and he lay on a hard board for half a month. Sir, I was wrong. When Swain saw Warri looking at him with a smile, he knew that he was a little proud. Really, the next moment, Wally was behind Swain, hugged him, and pushed his butt back. Then there were bursts of screams, and the mourning continued. Even if Swain naturalizes this time, it will be useless, because Warri has used the weapon color in his hand. You kid can take care of yourself. After Wally calmed down, he began to prepare today's dinner for Swain. Although he looked like he was dying just now, he turned around and was still happily sitting together eating meat. Boy, what do you want to do when you grow up? This is also a question that adults have to ask since childhood in the world of One Piece. Just like Luffy was asked by Garp if he wanted to be a Marine when he was a child. Swain thought seriously for a while and said, I want to become a revolutionary army. This is also the knowledge that Warri taught Swain in class, and also explained to him the distribution of forces in the world today. Advertisement. The Revolutionary Army, as the name suggests, is revolution. So who should be punished? Of course it's the Celestial Dragons. Pull them down from the altar. Ah ha 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 ha. Looking at Swain's very serious face, he couldn't help but laugh. I want to beat those who bully civilians until everyone no longer suffers from them. Of course it's good if you think so, Warri also praised. But you also have to think about yourself. If you join the Revolutionary Army, you will be labeled as a Revolutionary Army for life. So what does the old man think I should be? Is it Marine? Of course not. Warri's face turned ugly when he heard Marine, apparently very prejudiced against Marine. Marine is just a tool to protect those nobles. Even if it is of great help in maintaining the world, if it were not forced by the Tianlong people, how could so many people leave their families and become pirates? After finishing speaking, Warri's voice was already angry. After sensing Warri's mood swings, Swain also kept silent and stopped his joking. No matter what, I just have disdain for Marine. I only represent myself. I don't deny that he has maintained peace. Hearing this, Swain realized that Warri's true hatred was actually the Draco. He originally wanted to ask Warri why he hated so much and what happened to him. But when the words came to his lips, he didn't dare to speak because he was worried that it would be Warri's scar. Then I will be a pirate, a free pirate, a pirate that people can admire, just like Roger. Swain said loudly. Ha ha ha, but Roger doesn't have a good reputation. Wally was also moved by little Swain's high mood. Swain naturally knew that Roger had no good reputation, but that was all the world government and Marines slandering him. The civilians who really received Roger's favor were actually very grateful to him. Just like the original Fishman Island, then it's agreed that I'll go to sea when you turn 18. Be a pirate that people look up to, just like Roger. They laughed at the same time, and Warri looked at Swain as if he had seen the bold pirate with his father when he was a child. Very similar, that's all. Another year passed, and Swain was already 3 years old. In this way, Warri did not object to Swain learning the 6 marine styles, and began to seriously teach him how to improve his strength. Get serious, hands and feet must be unified. Swain let out a breath. Lanjiao. A crescent-shaped waveform burst out. The big tree in front fell to the ground. Good. You have already mastered the basics of 2 moves into 6 moves, and your talent is very good. Warri admired Swain. His face turned red from the praise. Don't be proud, you are far from meeting my requirements. Old man, what are your requirements? I remember you told me many times, but you didn't mention any measurement indicators. My request? It's very simple, just wait until you can protect yourself when you go to sea. Warri then said to Swain. However, these Marine 6 poses can be used as your daily bodybuilding exercise, but you must not rely on them all the time. In fact, when learning the Marine 6 moves, Swain also discovered a problem. This move is always very selective for learners. Why? For example, Lu Chi, the future leader of CP0, is the selector of this kind of 6 style, and he is often better than others in using it. For ordinary people, there is an upper limit to the 6 movements. For someone like Lu Chi, the upper limit is very high. The fact that he was able to survive 1 or 2 rounds in Luffy's 5th gear also illustrates this truth. He continued to listen to Warli's teaching. The real strong people's stunts are all created by themselves. Advertisement Chapter 6 Merchant Ships Advertisement. Swain thought for a while after hearing this, and thought about it, it was really like this. In the past, Roger's famous skill was God's Avoidance, and later in the 4 Emperors, there was Kaido's Thunder 8 Trigrams, and General Kizaru's 8-foot Magatama. Aokiji's Ice Age. The famous skills of many powerful people can be deeply painted in the mind, not because of their gorgeous performance, but because they can truly defeat the enemies they face. I understand, old man, a truly strong man has his own understanding of fighting. If you just rely on external things, it's just paper. Yes, it's not bad for you to have such a sentiment. Wally praised Swain a few words, thinking that his understanding was pretty good. Warri's teachings to Swain were actually guidance, and most of them were to strengthen his understanding. This will be very helpful for Swain to learn domineering in the future. His understanding of the strong is not only superficial strength, but also true inner strength. Roger is such an example, and this is why Wally has always admired him. He is not only strong on the surface, but also strong on the inside. Otherwise, could he be more courageous in the face of his own powerful opponents? Old man, have you ever been to Sky Island? Swain suddenly asked from the side. Sky Island? When he mentioned this place, Warri's eyes looked thoughtful. That's a nice place. Warri gave this answer. Swain thought in his mind, from what the old man said, he should have been there when he was young. At that time, Sky Island was not under Enel's rule. The reason why Swain mentioned this place was that he had longed for this place while watching anime. In his opinion, it is a place that must be experienced. Thinking of this, he wanted to grow up quickly so that he could be able to ride the sea. In the days that followed, Swain became even more attentive to training. He usually skipped the basic navigation lessons given to him by Warri and went to the mountains to start training on his own devil. He usually did not return for 3 days after training, home. 10 years later, Swain is already 13 years old, and his face is no longer immature. Due to years of training, his face looks older than his peers. Lanjiao. Swain skillfully called out to the winged bird in front of him. But it was his turn to be surprised. The winged bird was faster than him. So fast, shave. He dodged and avoided the attack of the winged bird. Highbound. Swain shouted. Dozens of tentacle-like ropes instantly appeared on the ground, but they were all made of seawater. Thanks to Warli's teachings, Swain has learned to use armed color coverings. Covering it on seawater can create an effect similar to sea towers. However, the effect has not been very good. I once fought against Warri and was cracked by him in 1 round. He put his hands together and the winged bird couldn't move. Good opportunity. Lanji. Boom. Boom. He used it twice in succession, both hitting the winged bird on the head, causing it to stagger and fall down. Today's dinner is ready. Since Swain was 10 years old, Wally rarely went hunting by himself. Firstly, he was getting older, and on the other hand, letting Swain go hunting could also be a form of exercise. Effect. The old man is out to cook. Swain grabbed the winged bird by its neck and threw it forward. A prey that was 100 times bigger than him was just thrown aside by him. Warri had just rested for a while when he heard a roar, and then a large amount of dust was raised in front of the door. From the looks of it, there was only a vague figure standing in front of Swain. Advertisement. You brat. Why do you always like to make such a big noise? I think I'm afraid that if I'm not caught and beheaded by Marine, I'm going to be eaten to death by your boy. Warri scolded with a smile. He. The old man will live a long life. You have some conscience. However, Warri was slightly surprised when he saw the giant thing in front of him. Your strength has improved very quickly. It has reached the point where it can kill the winged bird. To what extent is my strength? The bottom floor, Warri said without hesitation. This shocked Swain. How could it be? I've obviously worked very hard. Warri was also patient and comforting. You have to know that there are so many powerful people in this sea area. They all grew up in the struggle of life and death. Compared to you, you are just a flower in a greenhouse. Okay, old man, hurry up and cook. Swain really didn't care in his heart. He had watched One Piece. How could the combat power be so strong? Besides, the real strong ones are just that small group, the 4 emperors, the generals, and some of the hidden combat power of Malinfondo. But one thing is very curious. So far, Warri has not mentioned whether the island they are on is in the New World or the Grand Line. But it doesn't matter, after all, there are really no people in this place, at least he hasn't seen anyone except Warri in the past 10 years. While they were cooking barbecue, there were 3 merchant ships sailing on the sea 100 miles away from them. Boss. We seem to have taken the wrong channel. Yes, boss. We seem to have arrived at the Sea of Death and Silence. 2 crew members with short heads reported to the captain on the side. What, damn it. How did you manage the ship? How did you get to this place? The captain asked angrily. Our navigator died of a stroke on the way, and neither of us knows how to sail. A hole. Don't explain to me. You should think about how to escape from this place now. Copy that. The two crew members left. The captain of the merchant ship was left looking worriedly ahead. I didn't expect that this time I avoided the pirates, but not the disaster. I hope God will bless me. The captain prayed silently. Whether we can survive or not is unknown anyway. Why don't we each drive a boat and escape? The treasures on the boat are enough for us to enjoy for a lifetime. One of the two crew members, a man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks, suggested. Another man with an inverted triangle face pondered for a moment and said, "Okay. God is watching over life and death. He will bless us." The captain didn't care at all. Two people were already betraying him. After a while, the three merchant ships began to move in different directions, and the other two were obviously running in the opposite direction from the main ship. "Hey, what are you two bastards doing? Come back, come back," the captain shouted until his neck turned red. "Ha ha ha, goodbye, old guy." The expressions of the two people were obviously completely different from the groveling just now. But they all noticed that what they should really be careful about in this place called Sea of Silence of Death was not the direction, but the Poseidon type. There is a huge shadow gradually rising below the three merchant ships. Advertisement Chapter 7 Kill the Poseidon Class, Advertisement. Cardiff must be anxious to watch the hula from the boat now. Ha ha ha, I will definitely dance. The two men were talking loudly to each other on the bow. He didn't even notice the danger coming. The next moment, there was violent shaking from the stern of the ship. What? What happened? Is the boat about to break apart? The two of them alternately saw fear in each other's eyes. Look. There seems to be something down there, like a big bird. Don't be stupid, how could there be something in the sea? Idiot. That's the Poseidon class. It's over, I'm really going to die here now. The two of them were as anxious as ants on a hot pot, and Captain Cardiff was also anxious. It's true that misfortunes never come singly. First, he quickly ran to the cabin and fiddled with a small gun from the wooden treasure box. It's a good thing I didn't throw it away as trash. Cardiff walked to the bow and fired a shot into the sky. Canopy. Pink luminous powder bloomed in the air 200 to 300 meters high, spreading from all sides, looking particularly conspicuous. God bless. I hope there are passing ships around to see it. Cardiff put his hands on his chest, looking particularly solemn. Let's get to Cardiff quickly, maybe there's help. The betrayal duo, now looking at Cardiff like a stunning beauty, were extremely eager to get close to him. However, it's too late. The Poseidons under the boat rushed out of the water, breaking one of the people's bottom in half. No, there was only a reluctant voice as the ship sank. On the line between life and death, Cardiff was naturally frightened to death when he saw this scene. But fortunately, he had been sailing for many years and calmed down immediately. He took the helm himself and quickly turned the steering wheel in the opposite direction to avoid the sweep of the Poseidon's tail. Damn it. If we had sailed a warship-level ship this time, we wouldn't be in such a mess. Due to the Poseidon-like waves hitting him, he looked like a gentleman one moment, but now he looked like a drowned rat. On the island. Old man, there seems to be something going on over there, Swain muttered. His mouth was already filled with barbecue, I noticed. Leave him. Can you really ignore it? That seems to be a distress signal. Don't get involved in these things, it may cause unnecessary trouble. Wally knew Swain's character, so he naturally reminded him. The only ones who can come here are probably lost merchant ships. Warri said abruptly. What if it's a pirate ship, or a marine warship? Aren't you afraid of putting us in danger? Swain thought for a moment, then revealed a wide smile. What if it's a merchant ship? Don't worry, old man, I'll be sure of it. He stood in the air, looking around and still couldn't see the shadow of the ship. He took 2 steps in the air and flew far away before he got close to the signal bomb. It should be nearby. He looked at the direction of the waves, made a simple judgment and flew to the southwest. Get away. You damn ugly fish. Swain could already hear people cursing. Sure enough, he saw a man driving a boat, followed by a Poseidon-like creature similar to a lanternfish chasing after him. Advertisement Cardiff, who was escaping, used his cannon to try to teach the Poseidon a lesson and cause damage to it, but he completely underestimated the Poseidon's defense. Damn it. At the same time, he noticed a person standing in the air in front of him. Cardiff was immediately overjoyed. Save my boy, I can pay you a very valuable treasure. After hearing this, Swain was no longer suspicious. The escaped man was not a pirate or a marine, but an absolute businessman. He decided to help. Swain jumped up with a single finger, and the waves under the boat immediately split. The waves behind the boat acted as resistance, and the waves in front acted as assistance to accelerate it. Cardiff felt the change in the speed of the boat and said in surprise, "It's amazing, the direction of the waves can actually divert." Then something even more surprising happened to him. Swain held his other hand, and the Poseidon in the water was rushed into the air by a torrent of water. Seathorn forms hundreds of arrows from the sea surface, but the heads of the arrows are all black, which is Swain's weapon color. Choo-choo-choo-choo. A stream of arrows hit the body of the lanternfish like Poseidon, and it immediately ended its life, its blood dyeing the surrounding sea surface red for several meters. Swain groaned. So weak. He turned to look at Cardiff, who was stunned. Formed a clear gap. 1 second he was chasing him, and the next second he was killed by this handsome young man. That's right, it's a flash sale. Cardiff admired in his heart. This boy is so strong, he may have the strength of a major general from Marine headquarters. Cardiff is somewhat discerning and can estimate the strength at a glance, but this is also a conservative estimate that Swain did not show his full strength. Hey, how did you come to this place? Swain asked. Obviously he was asking why Cardiff came to this sea of death and silence. Cardiff first thanked Swain for his life-saving help, and then said helplessly, "We got lost and came here. It was not intentional. After all, this place is too dangerous, and no caravan wants to come here." Where are the others besides you? As soon as Cardiff was mentioned, he cursed. "There are 2 bastards who temporarily betrayed me and have been swallowed by the Poseidon class." "It's safe now, you can leave," Swain said coldly. He also took Warri's words to heart and only saved people. "Young man, I have a lot of treasures here, you can choose whatever you want. As long as you help me get out of this hell place safely." "I don't need your treasure." Cardiff thought Swain was asking for a price, so he simply gritted his teeth and said, "I'll give you all the treasures here. How about it as a reward for your escort?" In the past, this ship's treasure could have hired someone with the strength of a Marine Lieutenant General to help. But he didn't understand Swain, and he didn't like the money. If he had put it in his previous life, he would definitely be tempted. But today, in a world where strength is everything, as long as you have strength, money and power are inexhaustible. "I told you, I don't need money. Do you have a newspaper now?" "What? You mean the Times? There are the latest newspapers on the other 2 ships, but they have sunk into the sea." Swain nodded, indicating understanding. Then he said, "You can leave alone. While the Poseidons in this sea area are resting within 3 hours, you can leave safely." Cardiff had no choice but to give up. He really didn't understand why some people didn't love money but wanted newspapers worth a sip of tea. At least that was the case with the young man in front of him. "My name is Cardiff. If anything happens to my benefactor in the future, you can come to Yuan town to find me. I will do my best to help you." Cardiff gave a half bow in thanks. Swain looked at Cardiff and thought, after all, the old man will let him go to sea when he becomes an adult. He must have a place to stay when the time comes, and first find out where the town of Yuan is so that he can collect some information. "Where is the town of Yuan?" Cardiff took out a map and threw it to Swain. "I understand." Swain nodded. The 2 parted ways. Advertisement Chapter 8 begins the experience of the 3rd area. Advertisement, "You did a good job this time," Warri praised. "I'm almost immune to the old man's compliments. Can you compliment me instead?" Swain plucked his ears, appearing extremely perfunctory. "A arrogant soldier will be defeated," Warri suddenly said this. But it gave Swain some relief. Swain realized that he was indeed a little dizzy, and he laughed. "I'm just kidding you, don't pay attention, old man." "It better be, I'm not kidding you." Swain was completely silenced. Warri's words seemed to put a bomb between the 2 of them, ending the chat directly. Someone's Lil thought. The old man's emotional intelligence is so low, no wonder he has never met his wife. Swain carefully observed Warri's expression and asked softly, "Can I go to Area 3 for a trial?" "That's enough. Your strength has been reached. This unnamed island is extremely large and can be regarded as a large island composed of 6 or 7 small islands. The wild animals inside are naturally differentiated by their strength. Wally simply divided this place into 5 areas during the class with Swain. The place where they live belongs to the first zone and is the relatively safest place. Swain has been playing jungle in the 2nd area since he was 10 years old. Because Warri said that he likes to eat game in the 2nd area, it is actually a test for him. That's great. Swain was very happy. It's not that he hasn't been to the 3rd area secretly, but he went there once and it almost killed him. He always thought that in the place where Zoro was in Haki, it was heaven-defying that the orangutans there could use the double sword style. But after he saw the beasts in the 3rd area, it was really eye-opening, because they could actually use armed colors. The reason why he dared to secretly carry Warri to exercise was because he relied on his fruit ability. Once he couldn't bear it anymore, he would become natural and even escape easily. He used the method he used in the 2nd area to prepare for a rampage in the 3rd area. As a matter of course, the result was that his panda eyes came out after being punched. After Warri discovered the situation carefully, he went to find him in a hurry and brought him back. "After you have conquered all the beasts there, you can go to sea. If you think about it, it should be 5 years later." "The old man looks down on me too much. I've been convinced for 3 months. Swain obviously didn't believe it. Warri didn't answer him, just looked at him and gave him a simple smile. This completely inspired Swain's powerful man's desire to win. "I said in my heart, look, I will only use 3 months. He set off without preparing anything. "The direction is wrong, over there." Warri pointed in the direction while sipping tea. Swain twisted his body arrogantly, indicating that he did not need his reminder. Not far from the 3rd area, Swain was drinking coconut juice on a nearby coconut tree. With my legs crossed, I was lying on a cradle made of bamboo, and my face was covered with leaves that I didn't know where to get. In Swain's words, it was a leaf mask. I was living a happy life. In fact, he just wanted to leave Warri, because once he lived with Warri, he would wake him up on time to study every day, disturbing Swain's dream every time. This time he left Warri and went to the 3rd district. Just send a message on time when you encounter danger. Apart from that, this is a holiday. Swain's holiday life. He naturally wants to live as comfortably as he wants. Vomit, 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 vomit. The seagulls overhead made a sound as they passed by. Swain opened his eyes and took a look, expecting to see if a newsbird was passing by, but unfortunately it wasn't. He didn't know that this place wouldn't even pass by in the news here. According to the pirate world news in his memory, it should be available all over the world. Why haven't I met anyone here? He wanted to pay attention to what was happening around the world right now, whether Luffy had gone to sea or not, and where Ace, who was most distraught to him, was now. He wanted to make some friends. Advertisement Swain asked Wally if he had ever heard of Luffy, the pirate, or Ace when he went to the Grand Line. But he said that he had never heard of it, but the four emperors were still the four people he knew well: red-haired Shanks, Kaido of the Beast, Big Mom, and Whitebeard. When he asked more questions, Warri was unwilling to say more. He even refused to say what the current Yuan calendar is. It's just that knowing too much is not good for him and will make his mentality unstable. Swain sometimes wonders whether Wally knows that he is a time traveler. Otherwise, how could he understand Swain's psychology so well? Of course, he can know. That can only show that Warley's ability to observe and figure out people's hearts is so great. He guessed that it was still early, and those cases that shocked the world had not happened yet. Regarding Luffy, his guess was that he was about 4 or 5 years older than Luffy. Because Warri has never even heard of Ace's name. You must know that Ace went to sea earlier, and his name is more famous than Luffy of the same age. Fire Fist Ace was obtained by real fighting, not by killing innocent people indiscriminately. While he was thinking about these things in his mind, he didn't notice the danger approaching quietly. Ccc. A 4 or 5 meter long lizard was very close to him. Susu suddenly attacked, destroying all the surrounding leaves. When the big lizard took a bite, the meaty feeling it expected did not come, but only the feeling of teeth clashing. Take a bite and take a mouthful of seawater. What a risk. Fortunately, I insisted on keeping it natural when I was resting outside. This is what Wally often reminds him of. Because Swain's knowledge and skills are far from enough, he reminds him again and again. Sure enough, details determine success or failure at critical times. Now he was beginning to feel grateful that he had unconditionally listened to Warri's teachings. HMPH. You dared to sneak attack me. Watch me roast and eat you, a big grasshopper. Swain looked at the lizard angrily and said, Lan Zhao. A small but powerful move quickly counterattacked. Bang. Bang. Several times between two breaths. A cloud of dust rose from the battle site. The sound of spinning silk came, and when the dust dispersed, I found that the lizard in front of me had disappeared. Oops, I was careless, but the lizard had already walked around behind Swain at some point. It can also be armed. He originally wanted to avoid this blow by becoming natural again, but he had no choice but to welcome it in the critical moment. Seabound. Several chains appeared from the ground for no reason and bound it. Swain also had weapons on his hands, using his arms to block the lizard's bite force. It hurts. It was too late to think about it. He took advantage of the lizard being restrained for a moment and quickly fought back. Point the gun. The finger is like a sharp gunhead, dotted with armed colors, which increases the power of this move. Ding! Sounded the sound of metal collision. Knows fighting skills? This surprised Swain. You must know that there are not many beasts with fighting skills. Even if there are, they are primates closely related to humans. They can learn human fighting behaviors to strengthen themselves. We need to be serious now. Advertisement Chapter 9 Swain vs. Lizard. Advertisement, damn it. We haven't even entered the third area yet. The beasts outside are like monsters. Swain wiped the sweat from his head with his sleeve. Apparently this battle was a bit strenuous for him. Point the gun. At the same time, in conjunction with shaving, one of Marine's 6 forms, he chose to attack the lizard's eyes. Unfortunately, the lizard could see his intention and swung its thick tail towards him. Swain had no time to dodge, so he could only choose to kill and kill, but he underestimated the lizard's speed. In other words, it has not shown its speed from the beginning until now. It is conceivable that Swain was instantly hit in the abdomen. After hitting and breaking several trees, it stopped more than 10 meters away. It's so strong, the weapon colors it uses are just right. Just like the flick of its tail, he could feel that the lizard's armed color had almost condensed into a steel plate, and it was not sloppy at all. Swain is nothing like it in this regard. He finally understood what Warri said: if he didn't break out of the third area, he wouldn't have a foothold at all. Swain wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and felt inferior because he was not injured by a beast. On the contrary, he got even more excited. If this journey is too smooth, then he will definitely be disappointed. Since this is a road to becoming stronger, I will definitely stick to it. After just a few seconds, the lizard came over again, its eyes red, and this time it was even more powerful. Swain immediately distanced himself from it, and he was no match for it in close combat. Sea Thrust, Lanjiao. 2 consecutive attacks, perfectly connected, knocked it over several meters away, causing some damage to the lizard's outer armor. None of this caused serious injuries. Swain obviously felt a little headache, but he didn't expect that this guy had such strong defense, strong attack power, and fast speed. He is simply a pentagonal warrior. Wave. He held up his hands, and waves several meters high appeared from behind him, like a flood that burst a bank. Ignore it for now, delay it for a while and see if it can show any flaws. Sure enough, when the lizard saw the flood coming, it turned around and climbed to the nearest banana tree more than 10 meters high. Shotgun. Swain pointed a single point, and a small round cloud circle manifested by seawater appeared in front of his finger. Then, an air bomb with a faint blue aura around it shot towards the lizard at extremely high speed. Boom. A sharp sound sounded, and one of the lizard's legs was mutilated with blood. It worked. Swain was ecstatic. As for the small cloud circle that activates the ability, it will appear every time he activates the ability. At first, he thought there was something special about it, but later he found out that it was like a magic chant, a precursor to the activation of the ability, and there was no special ability. This is basically similar to the scene where Saint Satan appears on Egghead Island in Five Elders, but his 5-pointed star array may have a teleportation effect, while Swain's is just an activating effect, a bit like a forward movement of his ability. It is different from other Logia fruits. The shotgun is an ability he developed. He can concentrate the shockwave that causes sea earthquakes on one point, forming an effective killing force. But this is an island, and he can't cause sea earthquakes at will. Moreover, the degree of damage caused by launching a sea earthquake depends entirely on the strength of his physical skills. With his current strength, he can at most cause the destruction of a village. The lizard's fangs were exposed, and mucus was dripping from its mouth from time to time. Swain's shotgun shot caused great damage to it. It began to be wary of the prey in front of it. Even though it lost a leg, it still refused to let Swain go. The blood at this time had completely stimulated the ferocious nature of this beast. Kill him while he's sick. Swain won't miss this great opportunity. Shotgun. He clicked continuously with one finger, killing the lizard again. This time he was bound to win this. Blocker. In the third area. You will never fall into the same pit twice, just like a lizard will never fall into the same trick twice. Bang. Bang. Bang bang. Only a few potholes a few meters deep were left in place, but not a single blow hit again. Bind. Swain changed his moves again. Shave. He jumped and teleported to the top of the lizard. Let's see how you run this time. Shotgun. Advertisement. The big lizard also knew that he couldn't escape, so he hurriedly armed himself. But it is difficult to resist the lethality of this shotgun, and the damage is directly to the internal organs. HMPH. You've exposed your flaw. Swain naturalized it and turned it into seawater flowing around, appearing behind the lizard. Punch it on the back of the head and penetrate it. Only a lizard carcass was left lying on the ground. So close, Swain gasped and said, "My strength is indeed not good enough." Now he really understands himself. Perhaps when he really goes to sea, without Luffy's halo as a protagonist, he may appear in Impel Down Prison in a few years. He clenched his fists. I want to become stronger. Then he said angrily, let's start from the third area. After resting for a moment, he rushed in regardless of his own safety. East China Sea. Windmill Village. Grandpa, why did you bring me here? The child tilted his head and asked the old man in front of him, still picking his nostrils with his hand. You're going to live here, Dayton. This kid will have to be taken care of by you from now on. The old man touched the child's head and talked to the woman in front of him. Hey, Garp, do you think this is an orphanage? The little guy you brought last time has already given me a headache. Ahahaha. Really, Ace guy is just not easy to manage, Garp said cheerfully. Luffy is very good, very good. Then why don't you send it to me? Dayton looked unbelieving. Garp laughed and said, I want to go out on a mission. If I can't catch anyone, I might arrest you bandits to discourage them. Hey, don't say what's on your mind, Dayton said with a look of disgust. Then I'll leave this matter to you, Garp said solemnly. Okay, I understand. I just hope this kid can stay calm. Ah, Grandpa, are you leaving? I haven't eaten meat yet, Luffy asked angrily. A-hole, you should be worried about me leaving, not the meat. Garp lifted Luffy up with one hand and said with a fierce look, you have to listen to Dayton here. Then he threw it aside and embarked on his unique dog-headed warship alone. Poor Lubao, not only did he not get any meat in his mouth, but he was also left in a strange place by his grandfather. But it was here that he met two brothers who could do everything for him, and they were also two eldest children who were gentle from beginning to end. Return to the unnamed island. Different from the mild sunshine in Windmill Village, it has been raining here for a week. There seems to be no sign of stopping just yet. Wally sat alone in the room. I don't know if that brat is dead or not. Why don't you come back with a report? Seeing the rain outside getting heavier and heavier, his mood became more and more irritable. A punch hit the bushes in front of him, knocking Obito away hundreds of meters away. Achoo! Swain sneezed inexplicably. The rain fell on his face, but it could only wash away the blood on his body, but it could not stop him from killing the prey in front of him. Use your feet to lift prey aside. 21. Advertisement. Chapter 10 Making Salt Advertisement. It's 21, but all the good mood was ruined by the rain. Swain looked up at the rain in the sky, dripping down on his face. I wonder how the old man is doing lately. As he spoke, he used a knife to break up the prey in front of him. Due to the rainy weather, Swain was eager for success and could not find a place where he could settle down. I had no choice but to find a big tree that could shelter me from the rain, sit under it, and swallow the raw meat in one bite. This is still a bit unfamiliar to Swain. After all, he used to eat cooked food, and if he went back for a meal and then came back, it would probably make Warri's jaw dislocated laughing. Having said that, this week of fighting really made him feel very tired. Even the most ruthless person would be tired of fighting like this, right? Swain looked forward and said in a daze. He sat quietly, listening to the sound of rain falling on the ground. It was a rare moment of peace, and his mood felt dull along with the weather. A man in two lives. In his previous life, he was an orphan and grew up in a place of intrigue. In this life, he lives in a country where he can imagine freedom. But the reality is that this country can only get everything it wants by becoming stronger, which makes him feel that it is the same as being rich in his previous life. But the difference is that in this life, he has capital, a real chance for a turnaround. Thinking about these things in his mind, Swain slowly fell asleep. The next day, what woke him up was no longer a difficult beast, but the first ray of sunshine in the morning. It finally stopped. Advertisement. Swain was in a much better mood. Armed. The fist was instantly armed, and the speed was much faster than before. Strengthen. When he finished speaking, two light blue wave rings, one large and one small, covered his arms. This punch was punched through the air, and the trees in front of him were instantly interrupted. He continued to rush behind without any intention of stopping. Not bad. Swain exclaimed in surprise. Sure enough, as expected, after stacking a stack of circles, the power can be doubled. This is a very obvious improvement that he got in a week. Armed colors and fruit development. As for the other two, he hasn't learned it yet, especially conquerors, and he doesn't know if his body has the qualifications to become a king. He probably knows the same thing as Luffy when he first entered the Grand Line. He has also tried to practice it himself, but he can't find a suitable breakthrough point to introduce it. Sometimes he could feel it and sometimes he couldn't, which made him confused. In addition, the biggest gain this week is probably the development of fruit abilities. This is also due to his rich imagination, which always comes up with different tricks. Then let's try this trick again, he said eagerly. He spread his hands forward, and two small circles suddenly appeared. He said attentively, "Give me some salt." The first section is still seawater, but the latter section does contain salt, but it is only a small amount, probably only weighing a pound. Sure enough, it worked. We produced a lot of salt, Swain said in surprise. He wanted to create salt with this method, mainly because the meat he had eaten these days was tasteless meat, and it didn't last long. He then thought about whether he could use seawater to filter coarse salt. Advertisement. Chapter 11. Uninvited Guests. Advertisement. This is also his whimsical idea. Others want to use the fruit to create more powerful killing moves, just like Luffy's class level. It would be better for him to start doing things about food directly. If the internet in this world were developed, he might even host a live broadcast. The topic is called, How to Use Fruit Abilities to Stay Away from Starvation. While Swain was studying how to preserve food, he was on the other side of the Red Earth continent. Ha 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 ha. I want this slave as a plaything. The celestial dragon wearing an air tank on his head and wearing a luxurious outfit was pointing at a beautiful woman in front of him and said, Okay, as long as you are happy. Come here, send this B*ch to the adult's bed immediately. A man in similarly luxurious clothes accompanied the Tianlong people and said with a flattering look on his face. But he didn't care at all about the crying woman lying limply on the ground. Bang! A crisp slap hit this flattering person on the face. Ha ha ha. The Tianlong people jumped around happily. Father, look at this man's face turning red. Is he a clown? Don't mess around, Gaster. Don't soil our hands. Father, come and hit me too. It's fun. Gaster clapped his hands and suggested that his father should try it too. The man who was slapped in the face in front of him was Clifford Kit, the minister of the Goa Kingdom in the East China Sea, and the finance minister in charge of the Goa Kingdom. Behind him were two young men, one wearing a blue gentleman's hat named Sabo, the other with a hideous and ugly face, wearing a frilly shirt with a tie and suspenders, and a round head, a flat nose and a bowl haircut called Staley. Staley tugged at the corner of Sabo's clothes and whispered, "Look at the decoration on that clothes." Advertisement. Shish. Don't talk nonsense, it will cause big trouble for father. Sabo quickly stopped him. Oh, can we be like that? What, we don't want to be that kind of person, Sabo said in disgust, thinking that Staley would be afraid of becoming that kind of arrogant and domineering person, so he quickly comforted him. But when I turned around, I saw that this guy had a longing look on his face, and his expression immediately turned ugly. Go away, stay away from me, Sabo scolded softly. Staley on the side still didn't know why Sabo started to look disgusted with him. Father, why did the family ask us to come here? Come and inspect the lower world. Then the two stopped where they were, because the king in front came to greet them. The kingdom of Goa is known as the most beautiful kingdom. It is really an honor for me to welcome these two noble people. The rich old king and his young and beautiful wife came forward and bowed to greet him. Father, she is so beautiful, can you take her home? Gaster said something that surprised everyone. Sabo felt angry when he saw this man insulting his royal family like this, wondering if this man was too arrogant. Although it is true that he is a world noble, he should at least restrain himself here in the kingdom, but he obviously underestimated the shamelessness and arrogance of these people. Please forgive his words, Gaster's father said in a cold tone. No apology at all. For a child, it was an unintentional move. The old king had no choice but to bite the bullet and look at the celestial dragon who was the same size as him and said. But I still didn't bother to scold him. Idiot, you don't even have any manners, but you just got a good pregnancy. He did not expect that a celestial dragon would suddenly visit at this time, so he prepared in a hurry and had no countermeasures. Advertisement. Chapter 12. Enemy. Advertisement. Don't you know why Tianren came here? The beautiful princess on the side asked softly. The look Gaster looked at the princess was quite aggressive, which made her very unhappy. Except for the king, no one in the kingdom would dare to look at her like this. But the expression on her face was still gentle and patient. Although Gast was unscrupulous, he also remembered the purpose of this trip. So he said before his father could say it first, "The elder from the upper world wants us to get closer to you untouchables." "Really, father?" He turned to look at the older celestial dragon and said, "Yes, but I heard that the Goa kingdom is one of the best countries in the lower world, and I came here specifically for a visit," he said in a rather arrogant tone, as if coming here was a huge blessing to the kingdom. Sob at the bottom of the steps felt particularly harsh when he heard it. As a royal aristocrat, he was naturally taught very early on that when he met the gods, Tianlong, he should treat them as a courtier and serve them. But he never expected that these gods served by all people. He actually doesn't pay attention to the people at the bottom at all. Although he was angry, but he knew that he was just an ordinary person with a higher status. In the eyes of these Tianlong people, he was just an ant. Even though Sabo was unwilling to give in every way, he could only hold back. He even wanted to escape from this noble place called the Holy Land on Earth. Just as he was thinking about it, the conversation on the stage was almost over. Gaster rode away on the frail and beautiful woman on the ground, even though her thin body could not hunch his huge and fat body. After walking far away, Sabo, who was kneeling on the ground, slowly stood up. He saw his father accompanying the Tianlong people to the magnificent palace. At this time, looking at his awe-inspiring father no longer seemed to scare him so much. After all, he can't even protect his own people. There was no emotion on his face, but in his heart he was brewing a plan that could change his life. West Blue, unnamed island. Swain prepared his dry food and prepared to start the next battle. He weaved a huge sack out of tree bark to hold the meat. He found that his appetite was really scary recently. He ate nearly 100 kilograms of barbecue in his last meal before he was full. He somewhat understood Luffy's appetite. He remembered it as ridiculous before, but now when it was his turn to be hungry, he realized that it was really a normal thing. After carrying the food on his back, he headed towards the deepest point. He found that the strength of the beasts in the third area became stronger the deeper they went. This was also the natural law of survival of the fittest. As expected, there would not be much change anywhere. Ho 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 ho, not long after I left, there were several different roars coming from inside. It should be a different kind of beast. Looking at the roaring sound waves, it should be an ironstone ape. He was not afraid of the reaction. The ironstone monkey is a beast known for its armed appearance and tyranny. It exists in tropical forests all over the world. This is why when Wally was teaching Swain, he most emphasized that he should remember all the animal species on the island and the characteristics of fighting. Okay, let them be my stepping stones on the road to becoming stronger. In this way, he worked during the day to fight and hone himself, and went to bed after eating at night. More than 3 months have passed in a hurry. Clear the clouds and see the light. The moon shines brightly on the skygate. A bright moon hangs in the sky, illuminating the earth. Swain was sitting on the ground drinking coconut milk. To be honest, he had been drinking it almost every day for 3 months, and his mouth was almost full of taste. Just now, he killed several ironstone apes. My strength has improved a lot now. Swain said slowly. When I first met the ironstone ape, I had to put in some effort to defeat it. Now that I don't use my fruit power, I can only solve the problem with 2 punches. Advertisement, not only has the strength grown rapidly, but the color of the weapon has become more than 100 times stronger than before. He mainly used armed colors to cover his body. At the beginning, he mostly covered his whole body with armed colors. Now he can not only use covering flexibly, but also attach it to his fruit ability. He found that covering it on seawater can have unexpected effects. As he spoke, he began to use his abilities. Suddenly, a small blue wave circle appeared behind him. High touch kill. 8 tentacles with a diameter of half a meter appeared behind him, and the tentacles were extremely sharp, like swords. As soon as he thought, the 8 sword-like tentacles rushed towards the boulder in front of him, and in an instant the boulder was smashed into pieces. The tentacles are black, which is his new understanding of the use of armed colors. Attaching it to the tentacles made of seawater not only enhances its power, but its effect is actually similar to that of the seafloor stone. Because he tried to touch these tentacles, there was also an effect that made him lose the fruit ability. This made him very surprised. This was similar to the dark fruit, even stronger, because he might be able to have unexpected effects when facing users with the same fruit ability. But the hardness is too brittle, but this also depends on whether his armed color ability is strong or not. He remembered a truly powerful person, like the red-haired one of the 4 emperors. His armed color was even visible on the inside, and he could be extremely strong without having to materialize, causing great damage to the enemy. When his weapon training reaches the point where he can be like Bullet and can attach a giant of tens of meters, then he will be a real strong man. In fact, he understands that if he wants to be a pirate in the future, he will definitely face the pursuit of marine. Among the 3 future generals, the one who can best restrain his ability may be Aokiji. That tall, thin, cool man shows no mercy to his enemies. After covering the seawater with a large amount of armed colors, Aokiji can no longer restrain his abilities. Just as he was thinking about using his abilities in conjunction with his domineering power, a thin voice came from not far away. Even though he was very small, he did not escape Swain's alertness. He had already covered hundreds of meters with invisible water droplets. Once someone approaches, he can use his ability to be vigilant. This is also a new ability he discovered during the 3-month trial, with the ability to monitor. But that's all. It can't even see the opponent's appearance like a blind angle surveillance, nor can it sense the strength or weakness of an opponent like the observer color, but it can temporarily replace his weak observer color. Swain suddenly opened his eyes. Someone is coming. Is it Warri? Or is it the enemy? He was a little unsure. Is there anyone else on the island besides him and Warri? Because the number of water droplets touched is different from the distribution range, if it is a wild animal, there should be a lot of water droplets, and the water droplets are all spread over a long distance. But this one only touched very little, and based on his perception, the water droplets were distributed within a human-shaped outline. I can't think so much anymore, because I'm getting closer and closer to him, and the speed is very fast. I'm probably running towards him. He immediately ruled out Warri. If it was him, why didn't he come directly instead of meeting in this way, which was like a sneak attack? Enemy. Then this is the only possibility. He immediately naturalized and retreated into the darkness. Sure enough. It didn't take 10 breaths. Under the background of the moonlight, a man wearing a blue ogre mask and white robes appeared where he had just been. This is. Swain felt that this outfit looked familiar, so he tried to recall it. CP0. Advertisement Chapter 13 Swain vs CP0 Advertisement. Swain was completely stunned. Looking at this outfit, the contrast in his memory was immediately confirmed. Why does CP0 appear in this place? In fact, CP0 is too showy in his opinion. This spy organization that is above marine and directly under orders from the celestial dragons is very mysterious. Swain still remembered that in the future Luffy's battle with Kaido on Onigashima, one of them hindered him and caused Luffy to be severely injured by Kaido's blow. However, fortunately, he turned on the 5th gear, Nika, and was able to survive. Born. Later on Egghead Island, Lucci, who was promoted to CP0, also fought with 5th gear Luffy for a while. Although he was beaten violently, it was enough to prove their strength. At this time, Lucci has not yet become the leader of CP0, and the one in front of me is probably the current CP0 member. Swain hid in the dark and quickly analyzed the current situation. Then, Warri probably didn't notice any foreign enemies breaking in. After all, he broke in too suddenly. With my current strength, I can probably only hold on for a few minutes if I fight him. He calculated these things carefully. Don't think that CP0 is so easy to deal with. They can be symmetrical enough to become Luffy and Zoro of the 4 emperors, which shows how powerful they are. However, the 3 people they met, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, were more powerful, so they seemed slightly weaker. It's not that Swain is weak, it's just that he is too young and has not fully mastered the 3-color hegemony. For example, Jabba, one of Roger's crew members in One Piece, had the strength of Rayleigh at the peak of symmetry when he was young. He is also a 1 in a million figure. The masked man who had been standing there under the moonlight began to move slowly, holding something similar to a compass in his hand. If you look closer, you can see a statue of a mermaid carved on the side of the compass. The masked man suddenly turned around and looked at a certain place, his eyes narrowed slightly, and at the same time, he was gradually investigating there. No, we're going to be discovered, Swain thought to himself. Because the place where the masked man stares deeply is his hiding place. Point the gun. Suddenly the masked man teleported in front of Swain and issued a fierce killing move. However, what disappoints the masked man is that Swain felt in advance where the masked man was going to kill and elementalized it in advance. Huh, this ability. As expected, you ate it? The masked man was obviously a little angry. He turned sideways to block Swain's movement and wanted to make another killing move. Shotgun. Fortunately, he reacted in time and used the impact force between the two of them to force them apart. Seeing Swain retreating 100 steps away, the masked man said gloomily. I'll give you a chance. Commit suicide immediately. I can also give you a happy death. After hearing this, Swain Kaido. You have to give me a reason, right? Why do you want to kill me? It seems we have no grievances. As he spoke, he fumbled for something in his left pocket. Seeing such a scene, the masked man couldn't help but smile, but when hearing his voice, people felt not like a spring breeze, but a chill on their backs. I have already explored the surrounding area 10 miles away. There is no one who can save you. As a professional spy, he naturally has to do things that are conducive to completing the mission. Did the 5 elders send you here? Swain asked tentatively. At the same time, he was also carefully observing whether the masked person had any emotional changes. Really, after mentioning the words, 5 elders, the masked man turned his head slightly and looked a little surprised. But the next second, he came right in front of Swain and swept over with a solid right whip leg. At the same time, he said sadly, you know a little too much. Swain had no time to react in a hurry because the speed gap between them was too big. Bang dong 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 dong. Swain was kicked hundreds of meters away like a cannonball, raising dust several meters high on the ground. The masked man stood in the distance, looking there quietly. He frowned. Not dead yet. As soon as he finished speaking, a bright light shot into the sky from the dust. Is there any helper? The masked man suddenly asked cautiously. We need to fight quickly. At the same time, a grinning figure flashed in the dust. It hurts. This was Swain's first feeling when he stood up. But the old man must be better than him, right? Just hold on for a few more minutes and it will be fine. He was still thinking about how to delay time, but the other party didn't give him this chance and killed him in an instant. No sloppiness at all. Advertisement, Lanzhou, sea tentacles. The two voices sounded one after another. There was another loud noise. It was like two bombs colliding together. The masked man stood still, and Swain was knocked back several meters. Fortunately, he was not as embarrassed as last time. It's so strong, but it's still within the tolerance range. Swain wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeves and said. The masked man felt uneasy at this time. This kid. As the light of the flare rushed into the sky, Warli in the second area also saw this red light. It was really conspicuous against the dark night. Little Swain is in danger? Wally's expression suddenly changed. I have to go there quickly. There seemed to be no echo from the words, and the person was already several hundred meters away, running towards the direction of the signal flare. On the frontal battlefield, Swain had fought dozens of rounds with the masked man. Although he always failed, he managed to stabilize the situation. Seabound. Several black sea chains with armed colors attacked the masked man, but the latter dodged them one by one. But it brought distance between them. Good chance. Swain crossed his hands and bent his fingers slightly backward, and 10 more blue waves appeared behind him. Shotgun. Bang 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 bang. Iron. The masked man couldn't defend himself because he would be injured by these moves. Swain stood in the air, quickly thinking about how to escape. If you run, you will definitely not be able to outrun him, but it seems that I can't beat him. Replace defense with offense, he made such a decision. Then he used an overwhelming number of moves to hit the ground. Have you had enough trouble? The masked man said with a cold voice. Then, his momentum suddenly increased. It's domineering, Swain said secretly. Because Swain can fight the masked man back and forth, most of it relies on his fruit ability. Once the domineering power is used, it will not be good news for him. But it was already too late. Even if the masked man was not very domineering, it was enough to deal with a young boy. A punch was punched out of the air, and Swain had no time to dodge and receive the punch firmly. Suddenly my throat felt sweet and I vomited blood. In times of crisis, there is no way to sit back and wait for death. He first used the wave move, but the blue wave circle behind him gradually dimmed. He tried to delay some time, waiting for Warri's arrival. As Guzhou Donkey exhausted, the masked man came to him, and with a condescending whip, Swain was swept to the ground, knocking down 3 or 4 trees before he could stop. I told you a long time ago that suicide may be the easiest way to die. The masked man stepped on Swain's head. Like a judge, he announced indifferently. It's time to hit the road. Swain felt the strong murderous aura above his head and wanted to fight back, but his body was exhausted. Maybe dying. He was extremely unwilling. Why? He kept asking hysterically in his mind. Is this life going to end hastily? He was furious. I feel that God is unfair to me. Even though his head had been stepped on into the soil, he still spoke out word for word, as if he was swearing to God that he would not be reconciled to this life. I prefer. No, just when the masked man's kick was about to crush Swain's head. A huge momentum burst out, radiating out from around Swain in an arc, accompanied by black lightning. Conquerors. The masked man couldn't help but move, and was knocked away several meters away. What a strong domineering spirit. I will kill you today, the masked man said fiercely. Who did you say you wanted to kill? You be asterisk 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 D. A deep and loud voice suddenly sounded. Advertisement Chapter 14 Warri's Crushing Strength. Advertisement. Who do you want to kill? You be asterisk 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 D. Said a deep and loud voice. As soon as the CP0 masked man turned his head to look, he could only see a huge fist, hitting him in the face. The person who came was Warri, who hurried over after seeing the signal flare. He didn't expect that Swain would face the notorious CP0. When Pooh met him, even he was surprised. After all, being able to find this place also made Warri confused. Snort. Wally snorted coldly. When the sound reached the masked man's ears, it was like a pot exploding, causing pain. Who are you? The world government is here to do business. If you know what to do, leave quickly. He was terrified, and he didn't expect the person Swain called to be so powerful. In just one face-to-face confrontation, he was already at a disadvantage. Warri first checked Swain's injuries, but he was unconscious. Except for the dislocation of the elbow joint, the other injuries were only a little bit of flesh loss, and no internal organs were injured. This made him put down his worries, and he simply passed out. Then he stood up and looked sharply at the enemy in front of him. When the masked person asked many questions, he did not answer, but mocked. After 10 years, are you hawks and dogs so inefficient? The IQ of being a spy is naturally not low. Immediately I understood what Warri meant. The masked man said in surprise. You are the wise ape who hijacked the fruit back then. The staff of CP0 will naturally change from old to new, and the masked man in front of you will naturally be the new person later. He was not involved in the fruit transportation case that year, but every time he went back to hand over the task, there was naturally such a case posted on the CP0 task wall, which was an unresolved matter. 10 years ago, after the ocean fruit was hijacked, the 5 elders were furious, drew a portrait of Warri, and ordered all his spies to search the world. He even offered a reward of 1 billion berry, but the specific details of the reward were not disclosed to the public. He only said that he had stolen government secrets. I didn't expect you could still remember this old man like me. Why isn't your team leader here today? Could it be that he has been regarded as the mount of the celestial dragon? Warri said without mercy. Even if we are reduced to being a mount, it is an honor for us. The masked man said shamelessly. and the team leader has died in the battle. It is said that he was beaten to death by his subordinate Flame Calamity Jin while investigating 4 Emperors Kaido. You are honest, you know you can't get out of this island. While Warri was talking, his middle finger suddenly flicked forward, hitting the masked man's hand who was making small moves secretly with a pop sound. The masked man suddenly screamed, "Old man, I really don't think I'm afraid of you." Then he quickly threw something similar to a pill forward, releasing a large amount of smoke. Ha ha ha, this is new technology that can spy on others. This is naturally the new work of the great inventor Vegapunk, and it is also a must-have for every CP0 member. You must know that strong men don't even need eyes to fight, or they may just use their eyes to see clearly what the enemy looks like. Seeing, hearing, and coloring is a potential human ability to predict the future. This is the real eyes of the strong. Just as the masked man ran back triumphantly, Warli's voice really made him sit on pins and needles. It's useless. You can't run away today, things are changing. Now the situation was reversed, and it was the masked man's turn to become anxious. The purpose of delaying the conversation with Warri just now was to send out a distress signal unexpectedly. Advertisement as a result, Warri, who had been wary of him for a long time, discovered it, and the scene just now occurred. Dway. Warri's killer move was his first move. A western sword appeared in his hand at some point, and he swung the sword with one hand and slashed out with unrivaled power. The masked man felt the invincible sword slash from behind and quickly turned around. Shave. He turned slightly sideways, but unfortunately he still didn't escape and was cut to the arm. The arm was instantly thrown into the air, blood flying everywhere. Without any extra movement, Warri teleported to him. The masked man was horrified. Facing such a strong man, no matter how hard he tried to escape, it would be in vain. He simply raised his right hand and said loudly, "I surrender." Warri's knife was already close to his neck, the sharp blade had cut through the skin, and blood flowed along the blade. It was extremely silent. The masked man held his breath and concentrated, for fear that the sword would chop off his head. Warri was stunned when he heard his surrender, and then taunted. "Aren't you very tough? Besides, as a celestial dragon dog, won't you have to commit suicide if you don't complete the task? You know a lot, but after all, I'm still young." Under Warri's gaze, the masked man slowly took off his mask. Under that terrifying blue ogre mask, there turned out to be a young and delicate face, forming an extremely large visual contrast. "My name is Buck, I am a member of CP0 in the 217th period, code, Blue Ogre. Senior, you might as well save my life first. I may still be valuable to you," Buck suggested to Warri. Warri was not in a hurry at this time. Since he interrupted his call for help and cut off his arm, he was just an ant to him. He smiled and said, "You are very smart. Thank you for the compliment, Senior. Stop talking about these useless things and explain everything you know to me clearly from beginning to end." "Okay, but Senior wants to spare my life." Warri was a little impatient at this time. This was the first time he saw a CP0 member who was so precious about his life. In the past, he had encountered other CP members, and they often committed suicide immediately if they couldn't escape. His eyes glanced up and down at Buck. He said coldly, "You have no choice. People are knives and servants, and I am fish and meat." Buck naturally knew this truth, so he had no choice but to tell the story. It turns out that Buck's position in CP0 is very embarrassing, because he is a newcomer and has no outstanding political achievements. However, during the task process, he made repeated mistakes and was left aside. Even his companions began to isolate him. This group of members is not like the group of Lu Chi in the future. They are truly life and death partners who can be entrusted to them. The members of their group were only selected from the top spies at the bottom level. There is no bond between them, and their formation was also temporarily formed in order to face the general changes in the world, and there was no time to cultivate them. And because he offended his superiors, he was sent a death order, to find the missing ocean fruit. God knows where it will go today, not to mention that it was snatched away by Warri. The change is really too big. After searching for several months with no results, I accidentally heard that a highly accomplished fortune teller appeared on Fishman Island. This fortune teller was Shirley, the fortune teller after Luffy and his friends came to Fishman Island later. She predicted that Luffy would destroy Fishman Island. So Buck went to Fishman Island non-stop to find the place where the fortune teller calculated the appearance of the ocean fruit. After arriving at this uninhabited island, it took a year to get some clues. Advertisement Chapter 15 Swain's Conquerors, Advertisement. It was a waste of time and effort, but I didn't expect that all the efforts were in vain. The fruit was even eaten. When Buck saw Swain's ability, he naturally thought of this result, so he couldn't help but kill him, and then used this compass to find the fruit's rebirth place. I am also forced to a dead end. If I fail to complete the task, I will also die in the hands of the celestial dragons. Buck felt frightened when he thought of the mark of the ugly celestial dragon's hoof. Then what are you going to do now? Warri asked jokingly. Obviously, he was not impressed by his words about being forced into a dead end. When Buck saw his attitude, he panicked. No, it seems he has no intention of letting me go. Since you have chosen to take action, you must pay the corresponding price. This world is not one where those who speak the right words and those who are in a bad situation will be forgiven, Warri said eloquently. Buck felt desperate when he heard this. He didn't even understand why he still wouldn't let him go after he had already talked to this extent. But he always measured the road to survival from the perspective of a cold-blooded killer, but he never thought about the warmth of the world. When whose child is about to be killed, he will never forgive the murderer who is about to commit the murder. For Wally, who is about to reach his 60th year, Swain is his only relative, or child in this world. Moments before Buck's head fell off, Warri said the last words to him. In the face of no absolute strength, you and I are ultimately just pawns of the superior. Poof. Dripping with blood, Buck died after all. He looks very young, but he is on the wrong team. If he doesn't kill him now, he will eventually become a hawk and a dog causing harm in the future. Warri wanted to let him go for a moment, but reason finally defeated emotion. CP0 is not a sheep in the greenhouse. If Buck were a marine, he would definitely be alive today. Pity. Wally calmed down, picked up Swain with one hand and left. By the time Swain woke up, it was already the afternoon of the third day. If it weren't for the injury on his hand, he would have suspected that he was having a dream. His memory still lingered on when the masked man asked him to kill him. At that moment, he seemed very angry, and he fainted after yelling. Now that he appears at home, it must be the signal that sent Warri there to save him. He checked himself out as a habit. Apart from anything else, his recovery ability is really good. In just 2 days, scabs have formed on the flesh on his body, and the injuries on his arms have also healed to some extent. He faced the window and shouted, "Old man!" Warri was fishing in the pond outside the house. This pond didn't exist before he left, but it was probably dug out some time after he left. Thinking of this, Swain smiled and said, "You are really in a good mood. You want to dig a pond for fishing. Otherwise, your kid will be gone for a few months, and I will have a lot of free time. Is it possible that I have to catch a wild beast and teach it to read and write?" This actually meant that Swain was scolded openly and secretly for being worse than a beast and not coming back to see him for such a long time. It made Swain scratch his head in embarrassment. The grandfather and grandson did not mention the previous war at all, but instead chatted about domestic matters. Because Swain knew that Warri would definitely tell him. Really, Warri took the initiative to mention this matter. The intruder that night was a CP0 agent named Buck. Advertisement. Swain was not surprised at all, he had already guessed it. It was strange that Warri was not surprised to see him, so he could only continue. "The fruit you ate when you were a child was world government. No, it's the fruit that the celestial dragons want to recycle. 10 years ago, I hated the Tianlong people so much that I snatched this fruit from CP0. I didn't expect the consequences to be so serious at the time. I learned from Buck that later when I took you to escape here, they actually offered a reward of 1 billion berries for information about me." Then, he told Swain some of the things Buck said. After hearing the information, he digested it for a while before saying to Warri, "So, we are safe now?" "That's right, the only person who knew about it has been thrown into the sea by me." This technique, the corner of Swain's mouth twitched. Do I really have Conqueror's domineering power? Swain found it incredible. Yes. I was anxious at the time and felt a powerful force of Haki being released, thinking that another powerful enemy had invaded the island. Later I found out that you could only have awakened Conqueror's Haki unintentionally. After receiving Wally's approval, Swain was ecstatic. There was even a smile on his face. You know, Kaido of 4 Emperors once said, "Hakiness is what is above everything else." If you want to become a strong person, you don't have Conqueror's Haki, and you don't even have the qualifications to enter the strong person's ticket. Roger, Rayleigh, Jabba, Golden Lion, Whitebeard, Luffy, Zoro. As well as the current 4 Emperors, the strong men of the New World, and even the later Sin generation, there are many people who possess Conqueror's Haki. There is a 1 in a million chance that a king will appear. Now, Swain has obtained this admission ticket, how can he be unhappy? At the same time, it also proves that as long as he practices seriously, his upper limit of strength will be infinitely higher. The most direct manifestation is Conqueror's Entanglement. People who can use Domineering Entanglement are more than 10 times stronger than people who can't use it. This can be seen from the very beginning when Luffy challenged Kaido and was sent flying by the ladder with a stick, causing him to fall to the ground seriously injured. But it was Swain's turn to be confused. Warri asked him to use the weapon color and the basic knowledge color. But Conquerors didn't mention this at all. Wally could naturally guess Swain's thoughts. There's no better son than a father. Immediately, he unleashed his Conquerors. Swain suddenly felt an old, domineering aura, which made his breath stagnate. This was the first time he felt Conquerors, and he couldn't help but feel worshipped and afraid to compete with it. Is this domineering? Swain said. Then he looked at Warri with excited eyes. Yes, and your domineering level is the most intense and domineering I have ever seen, Warri said. I didn't teach you how to use it before because I was afraid you wouldn't have it. Starting from today, I will really teach you how to use 3-color domineering. Wally's eyes when he looked at Swain were also full of expectation. Swain was also overjoyed after hearing Warri's promise. I vowed silently in my heart. I will never let my head be stepped on by others again. When autumn comes on September 8th, I will kill all the flowers after they bloom. Advertisement Chapter 16. 3 years, going to sea. Advertisement 1 month later. Ouch, it hurts so much, Swain wailed. Master, can you be gentler? Several warm hills swelled up on Swain's head. It hurts now, and you will suffer less injuries in battles later. After saying that, he picked up the stick and swung it. This is to practice Swain's sense of perception. Only by covering his eyes with black gauze and sneak attacking from behind can the maximum effect be achieved. This is also the method Rayleigh once used to let Luffy practice seeing, hearing, and S*X on 9 Snake Island. It was very effective. 3 months later. Clang, clank, clank. After 5 consecutive swings, Swain, who was blinded, easily dodged them. You have made great progress in your knowledge and appearance recently, Warri praised. Practice the use of conquerors in the afternoon. 1 year later. On a certain day in winter, an intense black field began to unfold from the inside out around a young boy. Where conquerors passed, even the snow on the trees fell one after another. Is this the use of conquerors? It's really amazing. After a year, apart from using it inadvertently, this is the first time he has used his domineering energy based on his own consciousness. Yeah. Conquerors is the hardest to learn to use among the 3 colors of Haki. It's great that you can learn this step in just 1 year. Given time. Warri's plain voice stopped abruptly. He looked at Swain, who was jumping for joy in front of him. He murmured to himself, maybe, the future belongs to him. Time flies, time flies. 3 years passed in a blink of an eye. In the sea of silence of death, a short-haired boy stands in the sky. The handsome face has a maturity that should not be seen at this age. Rise. I saw him crossing his hands and raising them from his waist to his head. The sea suddenly became rough, and huge waves began to surge. The entire surrounding sea area seemed to be falling over. The young man in front of him was as insignificant as an ant in the waves. If someone were around, they would probably think it was the end of the world when they saw this scene. The waves set off dozens of meters high. This was a truly huge wave and a natural disaster. And the source of his creation is the handsome young man standing in the sky in front of him. There is no doubt that he is Swain, the user with the ability of the fruit of the ocean. After half an hour, the sea calmed down, as if nothing had happened. The effect is not bad, Swain said with a sigh of relief. His eyes were firmly looking at the end of the sea of death and silence, where the sea and the sky met, with the afterglow of the setting sun rendering it, and a few black spots flying past in the distance, which were the seagulls representing freedom. It's time to go to sea. In just one sentence, he was waiting for the end of 17 years, and it was also the beginning of the promise he made when he was a boy. Return home. Wally was repairing a small boat on the side. This was the boat he took to come to this unnamed island. Now it is up to him to send this young man away. Is the old man really not going out with me? Swain asked sincerely. He really couldn't let go of Warli. After all, they had lived together for 17 years, and they became more like father and son than father and son. Advertisement. Wally laughed heartily, but that contagious laughter could not change the sad mood when they were about to leave. I'm old, and I'll really have to take care of myself in a few years. How can I travel with you around the world? The future belongs to you young people. Go boldly and venture into it. Swain looked at Wally. He had grown to be as tall as him, nearly 1.9 meters tall. Seeing his gray-haired temples again, I understood that even though he was reluctant to let go, Wally really shouldn't go to sea with him anymore. Okay, old man, you have to take care of yourself. Swain turned around and left without hesitation, fearing that he would really see Warri crying. Parting always makes people sad. When he actually saw Swain leaving in that small boat, his eyes turned red. It has been 3 days since he went to sea, and Swain is still drifting on the sea. Seeing the map Cardiff had given him in his hand, he couldn't help but fell into deep thought. I seem to have taken the wrong way, he said in disbelief. Peeved, he complained. This was what Warri blurted out when he saw that he was not paying attention when he was training him. Similar to his catchphrase in his previous life, FK. It's normal to turn the map over and look at it. There is no text on this map at all, only simple routes and road sign directions. A navigator would naturally be able to understand this, but for a novice like Swain, it can be described as confusing. He just happened to look in the opposite direction of the road sign. When he knew the truth, his face turned green. Fortunately, he discovered it in time and decided to go to the nearest town of Yuan first. It is also the hometown of Cardiff, the businessman he saved 4 years ago. He immediately changed the direction of the seawater and set off towards Yuan town. After a few days of being dull, Swain finally started to move. Because 300 to 400 meters to the right, there was a large ship sailing parallel to him. Captain, look, there is a boat on our right. A horseman on the boat shouted loudly. What are you yelling about? Have you never seen a ship? The captain with a strong back and a strong waist stepped up and kicked Ma Zi to the ground. Then, he picked up the telescope and looked. There was a sudden sound of doubt. Huh? Why are you alone? The other horses also picked up their telescopes and looked, and saw a young man riding a simple boat. He was sitting on a bench on the boat, with his hands folded, looking towards them. This young man is none other than Swain. One of them said, could they be crew members of other merchant ships in trouble? Because the commerce in their area is extremely developed, clothes, gold, daily necessities and so on are traded. Almost all merchant ships use this sea line. After this person proposed it, everyone else nodded in agreement. Yes, Captain, we should send a signal to pick him up. The captain got up and said, what if it's a pirate? Now it was the man's turn to be silent. He was also scared when he heard about pirates. Apparently pirates are also prevalent in this area. While they were discussing together, Swain did not miss this good opportunity to hitch a ride. His thoughts moved slightly, and the direction of the water flow on the 30-meter sea surface centered on him began to change, flowing in a completely different direction from the surrounding water flow. Within a few minutes, we had already arrived close to the ship. A man on the ship was discussing something, but he was unexpectedly patted. Just when he was a little upset, he wanted to curse. As a result, when he saw the person in front of him, his mouth gradually expanded into an O shape. It's a ghost. Everyone looked back after being yelled at by him. The result is the same expression as him. However, he didn't yell, but he looked at the boy in front of him with strange eyes. Swain was stared at and couldn't help but say hello. Dear friends, how are you? Advertisement Chapter 17 Wuhan Town Advertisement. Dear friends, hello, Swain said, showing his white teeth. Everyone on the boat stood dumbly on the spot, completely petrified by Swain's operation. Think about it, it was still 300 or 400 meters away just now, and when sailing on the sea, ships can only move according to the flow of seawater, and they can only rely on other driving forces to get closer. Just like Luffy's Miles Sunshine, it can change direction by creating wind energy shocks. When they looked at Swain's broken ship, it was obvious that there was no driving force to move closer to them. This is where it gets incredible. Fortunately, the captain was a calm man and said, hello. My name is Bruni, and I am the captain of this ship. My name is Swain. Both sides confessed their names. Bruni felt that the young man in front of him did not have any malicious intent, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Where are you from and why are you wandering alone on the sea? This is very dangerous. I am from the East China Sea. My hometown was eroded by the war, so I wandered on the sea. There were some things he couldn't say, not to mention that he was going to sea alone, so he simply arranged an identity for himself. Oh, that's so sad, Bruni said comfortingly. Then do you need our help? We can take you away. That's great. I have a relative in Yuan town. Have you passed by there? Swain asked. In fact, he asked knowingly. According to the chart, there is only one supply station within 100 miles, and that is Wuhan town. It can be said that Bruni and his gang are bound to come here for supplies and large-scale transactions. Sure enough, Bruni readily agreed. The purpose of our trip is to get there, and you can come with us. It's good to have someone to take care of you on the way. Thank you so much, Swain said in surprise. He finally didn't have to worry about getting lost anymore. In this way, a group of them set off for Wuhan town. But within one day and one night, Swain became mingled with everyone on the boat, and laughter broke out one after another. Finally they arrived at Yuan town at noon on the third day. Since this is a large town, the harbor is under the jurisdiction of marine. Vessels must dock uniformly at the port. We say goodbye. Thank you very much, brother Rooney. Swain bowed and thanked. It's just a small thing, but your little brother should protect himself when he comes to town, Bruni said, obviously worried. Huh? Is the public security in this town bad? Bruni shook his head and whispered in his ear. Be careful if Marine blackmails you. This made Swain suspicious. Just when he was about to ask again, someone over there wanted to take over the ship. Bruni patted Swain on the shoulder and then trotted away. But Swain didn't take it seriously and smiled. What if he blackmails me? I will let him see what real blackmail is. Most of the buildings in this town are Sidong buildings. The so-called Haidong building means that the building is mainly 2 to 3 floors, facing north and south, so that each upper floor can be exposed to the sun. Moreover, the building terrain is very strange, with a 30-meter high watchtower in the center surrounding it, forming a huge, back-shaped terrain. The advantage of this method is that if an enemy attacks, they can quickly evacuate the crowd and gather troops. After observing the layout of this town, Swain took out his small package, and Warri prepared 2 for him when he went to sea. One was a big one to hold food, but unfortunately he had eaten it on the way, leaving a small package for him, containing gold and precious stones. These were the belongings that Warri left to Swain when he first went to sea. After all, he was still worried that with Swain's character, he might starve to death outside because he knew nothing. Of course, these are Warli's exact words. He picked out a thumb-sized piece of gold and exchanged it for 100,000 belly to buy things. As the morning passed, he first went to a restaurant for a meal, and then went to a weapons store to buy a handy dagger. I went to a clothing store to buy seasonal clothes and a hat. In the afternoon, he found a bar to drink. Sitting on a wooden bench and ordering a drink, the bar not only sells wine but also some drinks. Advertisement at the same time, I did not forget to ask the waiter to bring me a copy of the latest World Times. The first issue read, "The Revolutionary Army is in full swing, liberating the 4 countries. The tyrant Bartholomew Bear becomes the 7 warlords of the sea. Germa 66 has close ties with Mother 4 emperors. The swordsman Mahawk and the red-haired Shanks of the 4 emperors fought, and the outcome was undecided." Looking at the news in front of him, Swain felt itchy in his heart. It was not a bad thing to be of the same generation as these figures. He would definitely be included in the news headlines in the future. He took a sip of tea. His current location is North Blue. Among the blue seas of East Blue, South Blue, North Blue, and West Blue, East Blue is the weakest. But strong men often come from the East China Sea, like Roger, Card, Luffy. Since you want to be a pirate, the first step is to find a suitable companion. This just gave Swain a headache. Most of the powerful people he knew were already on board. Forget it, let nature take its course. Swain no longer thought about it. Quietly enjoy this brief moment of peace, not long. The bar was bustling with many people. Have you heard? Those people from Germa 66 are going to come here to trade. Why did they come to South Blue? Why don't they stay in North Blue? Really? Really? And first heard that Marine also has deals with them privately. Shush. Don't say such nonsense, you will die. The person who was reminded quickly nodded in thanks. Everyone was discussing in this bar. Swain turned his head and quietly collected information. He was thinking in his mind, Germa 66 is coming here? And is it also involved with Marine? This is a big deal. What kind of medicine are they selling in the gourd? Swain was keenly aware of some things. He knows that the Marine system is controlled by the world government and is not as just as it appears. Otherwise, the dragon who was still Marine back then, Luffy's father, would have left Marine. The reason is that he couldn't find true justice here. And the O'Hara genocide, he doesn't think Marine is a pure white lotus. Being able to collude with a force like Germa 66, which is the dominant force in North Blue, must be a matter of mutual interest for both parties. After all, nothing goes wrong, he has taken this matter to heart. It's time to investigate. Suddenly, Swain looked towards a corner. He felt a look that was extremely unkind to him. After looking at it, that feeling disappeared inexplicably. Have I offended someone? Swain carefully recalled what he had done in the morning and found that he had not offended anyone. Is it when exchanging money? He smiled and shook his head. It seems that this is the only thing that will be targeted, and it seems reasonable. He snorted coldly in his heart. If you dare to take any chances with me, you might want to meet your ancestors underground. He is not a saint. He has long recognized the cruelty of the pirate world, but he did not expect that he would be targeted as soon as he came out. In this case, you'd better not make any noise, otherwise. After drinking the drinks, we ate some barbecue. After eating and drinking, it's time to get down to business. Swain lowered his hat slightly with his hand, paid the bill and walked out of the bar. He wants to see which one doesn't have eyesight. Advertisement. Chapter 18 Hijacked? Advertisement. After coming out of the tavern, Swain acted very casually, wandering aimlessly, and then entered a deserted alley. Sure enough, a man followed at the same time, wearing a gray coat and a layer of white gauze on his head. It looked like the costumes in the Desert Kingdom. Swain stopped in the middle of the alley. Turning his back to the person behind him, he said, "It seems you like outsiders very much." Through the color of his eyes, he saw that the person coming from behind had a somewhat panicked expression. Take some of your money. He was speaking awkwardly, and he was holding a long dagger in his hand. The voice sounds very young. Swain took out a small piece of gold directly from his pocket. He threw it at his feet and said, "Then let's see if you have the courage to come and get it." He said jokingly, because through what he saw and heard, he felt that those people were actually two ordinary people. Why two? Because it was two children standing together pretending to be adults and kidnapping him. Moreover, this little brat said that as long as he had some money, he would still leave Swain travel expenses home. This made him feel dumbfounded. He looked so easy to bully, and even a child dared to rob him. Take it. Swain kicked it over. It seemed that the person behind him hadn't reacted yet, so Swain said again, "You don't want it anymore?" The person suddenly split into two halves in the middle. "Brother, we have money," one of them said happily. They are obviously two brothers, and they look very cute. The elder brother held his younger brother's hand, looked at the piece of gold, and then looked at Swain gratefully. He and his brother bowed at the same time, and then left with the money. Seeing these two children imitating the actions of adults also made Swain laugh uncontrollably. Isn't this a good deed every day? Then he returned to the tavern. The other side. The two brothers who were given alms by Swain quickly ran home and said, "Modi, hurry up. We have to go back to save my sister. Brother, wait for me." As soon as they entered the house, they saw several strong men gathered around the door. Among them, the leader was in a suit and leather tie, with a glossy black slicked back hair. His name was Hansen, and he was a famous loan shark leader in this area. "Do you have any money to pay off the debt?" Hansen's voice sounded sharp and mean. I couldn't tell it was a man's voice at all. He was questioning the plump, pretty woman in front of him. "Please give me a few days of grace," she said in a soft voice. "More grace? This is the first time," Hansen said extremely impatiently. "Now there is only one way to pay off the debt, that is to sell you to the auction." Just as she was about to explain, she heard Hansen say, "This way your two imbecile brothers can live a good life." He laughed loudly, and his voice was so sharp that it seemed to pierce other people's eardrums. "We have money." Modi was impatient and rushed out, holding up his money bag and saying. They had exchanged Swain's gold for Barry. 2 full bags of money. Everyone looked towards them. Modi, can you go play somewhere else first? My sister said loudly. The voice already had a crying tone. "No, sister, I am already a man," said brother Mokai. He walked up to Hansen and held up the money bag. He said like a winner, "Take the money and leave. We don't welcome you." Advertisement. Brother Modi also said loudly. Hansen motioned to a follower to check whether there was enough money in the purse. When he saw him nodding, he also had an ugly smile on his face. My sister suddenly felt bad and shouted quickly, "Run!" But it was too late. Catch these 2 money thieves. Before the 2 brothers even understood what was going on, they were already picked up like chickens by 2 big men. Modi's little face turned pale with fright, and he hurriedly explained, We didn't steal it, a big brother gave it to us. If you say you stole it, you stole it. If you dare to say more, I will sell you too. The younger brother was so frightened that he could not speak. UB asterisk 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 D. The sister hit Hansen in the face with her fist. But how could a frail woman compare with a strong man? Hansen even felt like she was tickling him. HMPH. BCH. Shameless. Hansen slapped Sister Modi on the face, and blood immediately flowed from the corner of her mouth. Sister. The two brothers shouted at the same time. They looked at Hansen's every move with angry eyes. If eyes could kill, I'm afraid he would have died thousands of times. Fortunately, his brother Mo Kai took advantage of this and bit the arm of the man holding his younger brother. Go find the big brother from before. Modi broke free and fled. You idiot. Go and chase him. He kicked the follower who was still in a daze. Fortunately, Modi has been familiar with this place since he was a child and narrowly escaped their pursuit. I'll sell you all at the auction the day after tomorrow, Hansen said viciously. Put the siblings into a cage and leave this place. Modi on the other side had runny nose and tears as he ran. Ooh, why are you bullying us? We obviously didn't do anything bad, they are all bad guys. He ran so hard that he fell on the road. Everyone around him looked over, and some people came up to ask, but after hearing the name Hansen, they stopped asking. Hansen is really notorious and full of evildoers. Seeing the people around him like this, little Modi also knew that the only one who could save them was his kind-hearted big brother. It was only after Swain returned to the tavern that he remembered to visit Cardiff. After hurriedly asking about his residence, he knocked on the door but no one responded. After asking his neighbors, he found out that he had gone to sea a week ago. It was already dusk when I returned to the tavern, and I heard the waiter say that someone was looking for him. I thought it was the captain I met when I got lost, but when I got to the lobby, I realized it was the kid who robbed him in the afternoon. Are you looking for me? Swain asked a little strangely. Yeah, Modi just answered one word and started crying. Big brother, please save my brother and sister. His little hands hugged Swain's trouser legs and refused to let go, even the snot from his nose rubbed onto his trousers. Swain asked Modi to get up and speak slowly. After spending 10 minutes explaining clearly the cause and effect, he stopped crying. Damn it. Swain punched the wall and vented his anger. This Hansen is a beast. Speaking of which, he also has to bear part of the responsibility. After all, giving the two brothers such a huge sum of money may also lead to danger. Swain did not consider that he would commit suicide by holding a jade. He said with some guilt, brother must rescue them. After hearing this, Modi burst into tears again. After all, he was still a child. Do you know where Hansen lives? Swain asked. Modi shook his head. I asked a few questions and they all shook their heads. This made Swain a little worried. From his description, I guess no one else would be able to explain it if I asked him. Then we can only ask about the auction. Advertisement. Chapter 19 Arena. Advertisement. After arranging Modi in the tavern, he came out to inquire about the auction. After all, the auction in his memory was still Luffy on the Sabayati Islands. With many questions, he went to the largest underground arena in Yuan town. The arena is often a place where wild people stay. It belongs to the Black Zone. This is the real intelligence market. When you enter the duel arena, you can hear the roar of people. At a glance, there might be nearly tens of thousands of people. Okay, I really hit the mark. A man in the audience waved his hands excitedly and loudly questioned his companion who just refused to believe his guess. On the rostrum, one person had fallen to the ground, with blood still flowing all over his body. The winner on the side raised a human ear, which is the winner's show-off. Okay, let's congratulate Pirate Gulix for winning. On the rostrum, the host was exaggerating this bloody victory with words. There was another bustle, and people's wildness was completely ignited. Crazy. This is what Swain can say about these people. Then the host announced the next game. Next game, Pirate Gulix vs Marine Isov. And Marine. This really opened Swain's eyes. He never expected that Marine would also participate. Sure enough, this arena is really a mixed bag. No wonder the guards didn't check it when they entered just now. Gulashi on the stage was a little flustered, but he still walked off the stage to take a break. This made Swain a little strange, and he asked the person sitting aside, is this Isov very strong? Yes, he has won 17 games in a row. He is the consecutive champion today. I'm afraid this Gulashi has no chance of winning, and he's also a pirate. Isov can still exchange his head for money. I'm afraid he's going to make a fortune. Then I'll bet on Isov. I'll definitely make another fortune. Will there be a reward for the final winner? Swain asked. It must be there. It's money that can't be used in a lifetime. You know nothing, it's a treasure map. Someone around said. Then two more people talked about different rewards. They didn't know what the rewards were, and most of them were hearsay. Swain stayed for a while and found that no one was talking about the auction, so he was about to leave. Suddenly, there was another shout from all around. It turned out that the winner had already been decided in that match, and Marine won without a doubt. Did you enjoy watching today? Did you enjoy it? The host arouses the emotions of the audience. If someone becomes the final winner tonight, he will get a ticket for the auction. Good, 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 good. The audience shouted. Are the tickets for this auction valuable? One person asked. Absolutely. Ordinary people are not qualified to participate. It is said that there will be high-quality slaves and devil fruits at the auction in 2 days. Ah, will devil fruits also be auctioned? Yes, this underground auction in Wuhan town is probably one of the best in South Blue. There used to be Draco people who came across the sea to buy things. I heard that red-haired Shanks also came here. Everyone said one after another. This aroused Swain's curiosity. It turns out that tickets for this auction are so difficult to obtain. But there is no such opportunity before us. And even the strongest consecutive champion, it seems, his strength is not that great in his eyes. He called the waiter at the back and asked, "Are you still allowed to compete now?" The waitress politely replied, "Sure, sir, you just need to go to the entrance to sign the life and death certificate." Okay, thanks. It turns out it's that simple. Next, Swain followed the waiter's instructions and went to the entry gate to sign his name. However, he was careful and used a pseudonym instead of signing his real name. Waited for about half an hour. He heard the host calling his name. The next match is Kaido vs Kirk. There was no longer the roar just now, but instead they looked at each other in shock. Kaido. Which Kaido? Is it the 4 Emperors Kaido? Others are also curious about this question. Idiot. How could it be Kaido of the 100 Beasts? If he came, everyone would probably run away. That's 4 Emperors. 4 Emperors. He also emphasized it twice, just to make his accomplices wake up. The 4 Emperors are not a real emperor would never come to a place like this. Only then did everyone suddenly realize that it was Swain who took the name of Teacher Kai, which was too confusing. After the host's introduction, Kaido appeared through the projection bug. There were a few people on the rostrum. Isn't this the young man we were discussing with just now? I'm betting on Kirk. Advertisement. Kirk is a bounty hunter and has killed pirates worth 90 million. I'll bet on Kirk too. Quote. Almost no one cares about Swain. Gambling was the only fun in the arena, and they began to bet on this duel. Because just looking at his body shape, Swain looks much weaker. Kirk was 3 meters tall, with a heavy back and a heavy waist. He had several scars on his face and looked like a murderer. But strength is not defined by body size. Otherwise, wouldn't the giants be invincible in the world? As the game started, Knockulk started to attack. One lunged forward and locked his throat with his palms, and there was a bang. The floor on the ground cracked, and a large amount of dust was raised. But Swain easily dodged it. You are too slow. The speed needs to be improved. Swain said slowly. This made the big man in front of him very angry. He thought Swain was humiliating him and said, "Kid, don't be so arrogant." Swain instead said, "Huh." He didn't understand why this person was angry. If someone pointed out the problem to him, it would be too late for him to be happy. Kirk became even more angry when he saw Swain's contempt. He roared and stepped quickly, leaping to Swain's side, trying to catch him. But how could he get his wish? Instead, I heard another blow from Swain. Your strength is not as strong as the big lizard in my backyard. The dodging was orderly and did not affect Swain's speech at all. The audience was also shouting. What a fool. Why does this kid look like a monkey? Take the move quickly. Yeah, let the big guy punch you to death. That's right, take the move quickly. The people in the audience who were betting on Kirk naturally helped him shout. Certainly, there were also people who bet on Swain, but the money they bet was very small, so even if they lost, it wouldn't hurt. Feeling the support from the audience behind him, Kirk was also confident and said excitedly. Kid, if you have the guts, don't run away. After Swain heard this, he stood still. Then Kirk was overjoyed when he saw Swain not moving. Just die. He charged up a punch and hit Swain on the head. He's going to blow Swain's head off with this punch. The audience also celebrated loudly, seeming to think that the battle was over. This kid is too young, how could he be provoked by such a big man? It was a mistake for him to go on stage for a duel. What a fool. Several people who had met Swain before said this. They are extremely unfavorable to Swain. Even the host is preparing to ask staff to clean up the scene. But, a dramatic scene happened. Swain also punched, looking so weak. The only strange thing was that his fist was black. Fist to fist, Swain almost smashed Kirk's big fist into pieces and sent him flying out of the field with one punch. Suddenly, the scene was completely silent. Even the people who were about to open the champagne stopped what they were doing and stared at the scene in front of them. Extremely unreal. This is what everyone is thinking at the moment. Swain, who made this news, bared his teeth in an idiotic manner. I won. They just reacted. What was that just now? His fist turned black. He must have used a weapon. Yes, this is a weapon. It's cheating. That's an armed color. Isov, the consecutive champion, said solemnly. He stared at the boy named Kaido on the stage. Very strong. This is a feeling given to him. Armed color. What is that? Someone asked in confusion. Naturally, there are people who know about these aspects to provide popular science. This is a kind of human potential, a kind of domineering power that can arm oneself. It is difficult for ordinary people to learn. Only then did everyone come to their senses. The young man in front of me is a strong man. Advertisement. Chapter 20 Showdown. Swain's strength. Advertisement. Following Swain's victory, people in the audience began to curse Kirk. After all, someone had staked his fortune on it. If Swain won this game, he would naturally go bankrupt. Those who initially tried to make a lot of money regretted betting on Swain. Is this kid so strong? The first few people who came into contact with Swain looked at each other. He seems to have just come of age. One of them said in surprise. That's all. Swain started his winning streak, and no matter what opponent he encountered, he would just take it down with a single punch. One after another. 17 consecutive wins. This is also the rule in the arena. After winning 17 games, you must stop and wait for a duel with the previous consecutive champion. Next game, Kaido vs Isov. As the host's voice fell, the venue was buzzing with people. Finally, the game they wanted to watch came. 2 consecutive champions dueling. This seems unprecedented. Someone said in surprise. This storm also began to change with the appearance of Swain. Isov narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Swain, who was resting. It seems that he wants to see through this opponent. However, this seems extremely difficult. This must be a difficult opponent, he said after thinking. On the other hand, Swain looked relaxed and did not feel at all like he was facing a formidable enemy. He even went to the lottery booth and bought himself 100,000 berries. He is very confident that he can win this game. He had already estimated Isov's strength. It should be between Marine Major General and Lieutenant General, and can beat half of Lieutenant General. But to defeat him, I'm afraid you need to be at the level of a general. Although I haven't fought against the generals yet, my strength should be slightly inferior to that of the 3 generals, but it won't be too different. He is also confident that he will definitely catch up with the general within 2 years. He was thinking about nothing, and the game had already begun. Players from both sides have won the recognition of the audience through duels, and each has developed its own prestige. The cheers and cheers in the audience were divided into 2 parts at this time. On one side was the sound of shouting, Isov, and on the other hand was the sound of shouting, Kaido. Game start. It started with the host waving his hand. Isov took the lead in attacking, teleporting to Swain's right and charging up his elbow, seemingly to make Swain lose his fighting ability. However, Swain had already predicted his movements. He leaned in the opposite direction and dodged easily. Isov was not discouraged, but struck harder and harder. Seeing Swain being chased and beaten, the audience supporting Isov also shouted harder, as if this could give Isov more power. Tiger charge. A tiger's airflow began to condense behind Isov. His hands also turned pitch black, clearly showing the color of weapons. He pounced on Swain quickly and swiftly, like a real beast. Swain stopped dodging. He turned his hand into his palm and hit the opponent at an oblique angle. Ape palm. There was also a giant ape-shaped airflow behind Swain. This is a fighting technique learned from Warri. He wants to fight with pure physical skills. The 2 sides collided head-on for the first time, and a powerful shock wave spread in all directions, instantly throwing away the spectators who were nearby. Cave. A sound pierced the air, and Isov fell behind within a few seconds of persisting, and was rushed a few meters away by Swain. Sure enough, his forehead was already sweating. It was obvious that Swain had put too much pressure on him just now. You are no match for me. Swain stood calmly. The fight just now didn't cause any harm at all. The winner hasn't been decided yet, don't be too proud. Isov punched again in the air. The resulting shock wave struck Swain. Little tricks. Swain unhurriedly punched in the air as well. The power of the latter can directly destroy the opponent's moves. Teleporting to Swain's upper right again, Isov whipped his leg, but Swain blocked it with his right arm. Many consecutive attacks were easily resolved by Swain. Advertisement. Taking advantage of his vulnerability, Swain punched him in the chest, causing him to kneel on the ground in pain. The venue was completely silent, obviously attracted by the fierce fight between the 2 men. But with Swain's punch, the audience began to boil again. They shouted, Kaido, Kaido, Kaido. Isov was filled with anger. Ever since he became a Marine, everything had gone smoothly for him. He had never suffered such a heavy blow. You forced me to do this. Isov roared, and his body shape began to change. A long tail grew from behind him, his hands and body began to grow larger, and even his face became a tiger's face. When this change occurred on the stage, many people exclaimed in surprise. What happened to him? How did he become like this? Someone asked in confusion. It should be an Esper who ate a devil fruit. Only people with devil fruit abilities can do this, and it looks like it's animal type. Naturally, the discerning people in the audience recognized it. Because in previous years, some ability users would appear in the arena. I am a user with the ability of the tiger fruit. Give you a chance and surrender. I don't want to kill innocent people indiscriminately. On the stage, Isov and Swain were facing each other, but their tone was quite arrogant. Are you so confident? Swain asked. His expression still seemed calm and composed. Just keep talking harshly. You won't cherish the opportunity given to you. Isov jumped into the air and landed on Swain's head. The sharp claws reached down and reached for Swain's head. The speed is so fast that you can hear the sound of breaking through the air. If this claw were used by an ordinary person, it would probably fall apart like a watermelon. However, the scene Isov wanted did not happen. Swain still made a simple move, even just raising a finger to counterbalance him. But when Swain pointed his finger, he was still a little domineering. The shock wave generated by the confrontation was stronger than before, and even the fence on the side was cracked. Swain pressed hard again, and Isov flew backwards. It pulled on the ground for 3 or 4 meters before stopping. How could it be possible? Isov felt it was extremely unreal. Yes, extremely untrue. He didn't understand why the young and shameless boy in front of him was so strong. I have never heard of this person. Appearing out of thin air. Although he was not injured in the previous fight, the animal-type fruit's defense was terrifying. He already had the intention to retreat, and there was no point in continuing to fight. No need to fight to the death. I wanted to raise my hands and surrender. You can surrender in the arena. But Swain didn't know what he was going to do. This was the first time he met a person with abilities since he went to sea, and Isov's strength was pretty good. Given time, he will definitely be able to become Marine Lieutenant General, and he will be one of the more powerful among the Lieutenant Generals in the headquarters. Except for Garp, he is a legendary level expert after all. Swain smiled, looking harmless. He was behind Isov in an instant, and kicked him away with a sweep of his leg before he landed on the ground. He was extremely fast and punched the sky again. He punched more than 30 punches in a row. Isov was kept being beaten in the air. Completely crushed. Even those with the tiger fruit ability are powerless to fight back against Swain. The audience was completely silent. Even the host stopped explaining and stared at the scene in front of him in stunned silence. Sure enough, it's so tough. My hand hurts a little from the beating. Swain moved his wrist and said. Isov, who was lying on the ground and rolling his eyes, was unconscious and foaming at the mouth. He really wanted to say, "Can you let me open an iron block and hit it again?" But Swain knew his actions, but not his feelings. Kicked him off the stage. At this time, everyone reacted one after another. The boy in front of me won. And in an extremely simple way. People started going crazy for this fight. Nearly 10,000 people in the stadium shouted Kaido's name. This time, Kaido wins. Tonight, the auction will be won by Mr. Kaido. Advertisement. Chapter 21 Auction. Advertisement. When the auction ended, the tickets for the auction arrived. Swain looked at the black ticket in his hand. It is more like a VIP card than a ticket. Congratulations, Mr. Kaido. You can use this ticket to participate in the Lotto Manor in 2 days. Then he gave Swain a map and 1 million belly. This map is naturally the route to Lotto Manor, and Swain won the 1 million bets. After this night of hard work, he can be said to have gained both wealth and fame. After returning to the tavern to comfort Modi for a while, he fell asleep. Even if the body is not tired, there will be times when the mind is tired. 2 days go by in a blink of an eye. After Swain made some preparations, he set off for the auction. Modi wanted to follow him, but Swain rejected him even more when he saw his anxious look. It is a burden to begin with, but if something goes wrong again at the auction, it will be difficult to deal with. It was also for his own safety. After going out and hailing a carriage, we set off. We walked on the road for 3 hours and didn't arrive at Lotto Manor until the hottest part of the afternoon. Lotto Manor is located on the outskirts of Yuan Town, backed by a valley, facing the sun, with sea views to the south, and a trading center like Yuan Town to the north. It can be said that the location is conducive to people, and it is no wonder that the auction can be held here. After getting off the carriage, 2 young and beautiful concierge ladies came. Hello. Please show your invitation. Even though Swain looked very young and there was no grand guard of honor following him, they still asked with gentle faces. This made Swain have some affection for the owner of this manor. After all, politeness is important everywhere. He showed his ticket and walked in calmly. The layout of the manor is like a medieval European manor, elegant and simple yet beautiful. Following the MC all the way, we soon entered the core of the manor. Enter the auction venue. The decoration inside is magnificent, in sharp contrast to the simplicity outside. No wonder I heard that even the celestial dragons would participate in this kind of auction. It is indeed well deserved. Swain thought silently in his heart. At this time, many people had come to the venue. Swain chose a seat near the front and sat down, preparing to close his eyes and rest. Then someone came to him. It was the young lady who had led him the way just now. She said warmly, "Sir, you can't sit here." Seeing that Swain was a little confused, he explained, "This is made by the distinguished guests of the auction. Can you sit back for a moment, okay?" He said it in an extremely polite tone, with a smile on his face. Swain really didn't know that there was such a saying, and he didn't reach out to hit the smiling man, not to mention that no matter how unhappy he was, he wouldn't let out anger on a waiter. Swain quickly stood up and sat at the back. He understood that there was something behind the words of the MC, which meant that someone of his level could only reach the end. He wasn't angry either, but he wanted to see who the big guys who could come to this auction were. After he sat down again, many people came one after another. The host of the auction also stood on the stage, adjusting his makeup, as if waiting for some people. She muffled the sounds in the field with her hands. Let us welcome Vintmoke Grey, the great butler of the Vintmoke family. When the audience heard the name of the visitor, there was a buzz, and then they applauded. I saw a middle-aged man with a long face, more than 2 meters tall, with a black goatee and wearing a black suit walking in. Next, Marine Headquarters Lieutenant General Ghost Spider. The host continued to introduce. The venue suddenly buzzed again. As expected, Germa 66 is here as rumored. But it doesn't seem to have much to do with colluding with Marine, right? The person who came as the Lieutenant General of the headquarters, Ghost Spider. Swain knew the strength of the Lieutenant General of the headquarters, Ghost Spider. He was very conspicuous in the subsequent war on the top, and his strength was also outstanding. At the same time, he was also a figure like Akainu, a man who regarded all so-called evils as enemies. That kind of person cannot get along with someone like Germa 66. After all, the latter's reputation is really bad. The Vinsmoke family has always been famous for war and technology. Why are you here today? Is there any high technology in this auction? It shouldn't be the auction's turn. And Ghost Spider didn't hide his identity, so he must be bidding on behalf of Marine. They should be fighting for the same thing. What could it be? Swain was puzzled. He felt that this auction was getting more and more interesting. Advertisement. Then several more pirate forces entered. When the Ghost Spider saw the latter pirates, he even felt like taking action. The scene became tense for a moment. Fortunately, Gray from the Sanji family came to the rescue and said, "Everyone, we are here to buy what we want today, not to fight. If you want to fight, you can naturally wait until the auction is over." After all, the person who came here represented the dominant force of North Blue, so he was given a bit of a thumbs down. The two sides then stopped and sat down quietly. When the host saw Gray coming to the rescue, he nodded gratefully to him. He can't afford to offend any force here, and he can make this Lotto Manor disappear in a matter of minutes. Then the auction round begins. The first item is a topographic map from a gold mine. The starting price is 5 million berries. After everyone discussed with each other for a while, someone bid 7 million. 7.5 million. 8 million. 8 million once, twice, 3 times. Deal. Then a waiter delivered the treasure box containing the topographic map to the bidder. How come this gold mine is only worth 8 million? Swain didn't understand. It stands to reason that this thing would be worth bidding up to 50 million. Fortunately, someone on the side explained. This gold mine may have been mined, and the few gold mines left were put up for auction. In fact, this land has to be taken out in disguise. It's just a nicer way of saying it. Swain nodded in realization. Emotions are about real estate. I said that if there was a real gold mine, would it be put up for auction? It's impossible even if you think about it. The next item is a fine black knife. The starting price is 5 million. 7 million. Quote. The final price was 12 million berries. Swain estimated that this weapon would not be very sharp. Really good knives are often priceless and not even available for sale. Swain was not interested in anything that came next, mainly because he was really poor. He only had 1 million belly, and he was not even qualified to bid for it. Fortunately, he has the strength, so he thinks that if he really wants something, he can try. $0 purchase. After all, none of these things that can be put up for auction are covered in blood. We took a break in the middle and took advantage of this period to directly pull out some beautiful slaves to sell at the auction. Swain saw the Mokai brothers and sisters locked in a cage at a glance. Fortunately, no one was interested in these slaves at all, so he spent 300,000 to buy them. After Sister Modi heard that someone had bought them, she hid in a corner and hugged Mokai while sobbing. The panic on her face could no longer be concealed. The auction is in full swing, with only the last 2 pieces left. Devil fruit. The starting price is 20 million. A fruit that looked like a peach was brought to the table, and it was covered with things that looked like scales. There was a buzz of discussion at the auction. Someone asked, "What is the name of this fruit?" "It's not clear yet," the host said helplessly. "I just put it out for sale without knowing it, which is also a gamble." But he had underestimated the devil fruit's attraction to the sea. "I'll pay 30 million, a fierce-looking pirate shouted. 35 million, 40 million, 45 million. The pirate insisted through gritted teeth, obviously reaching his limit. 60 million. Marine Lieutenant General Ghost Spider called out the price. Directly higher than 15 million, the pirate had no choice but to sit down angrily and stop following the price. Thinking about it, you know that it is a devil fruit after all, and this thing is really rare. In fact, the real market price of devil fruit starts at 100 million berry. Because this is the South Blue, which is a sea area with the most pirates. It is not like those places north of the Red Earth continent where there are billions of berries. In South Blue, no matter how rich you are, you can't carry more than tens of millions of dollars with you. This also results in the value of auctions rarely reaching hundreds of millions. RMB 60 million, a deal. It was obtained by Mr. Ghost Spider. A joyful smile appeared on the host's face. Devil fruit can also improve Marine's strength, so it makes sense for the Ghost Spider to bid. Next item. She paused for a moment. Said. It is a special race called Lunaria. Advertisement. Chapter 22 The Finale, the Lunaria Clan. Advertisement. Next item. A slave from a special race, the Lunalia tribe. The host said. Immediately afterwards, a cage made of seafloor stone was pulled out. There was a young man tied up with chains inside the cage. He has a dull brown complexion, gray hair on his head, a pair of injured wings on his back, and several flames on his body. He is about 18 or 19 years old, and his face is full of fear and exhaustion. Most people in the auction venue looked at each other in shock when they heard the name Lunaria, not knowing what race they were. Because this race has long been classified as taboo by the world government, only a few people know about it. As for why the host knew, he probably got it from the young man in the cage. Swain knew that Jin, the eldest brother among the three disasters, was from this race. He clearly understands how tyrannical his strength is, and his recovery ability can be called immortal. It is because of his special recovery ability and powerful fire control ability. When he was young, he was used as a guinea pig for research by the world government. It was not until he was accidentally rescued by Kaido that he escaped from the Sea of Misery. Moreover, special races in this era have always been sold for sky-high prices. For example, a fishmen tribe in the Sabayati Islands was sold for sky-high prices, not to mention this rarer race. The host continued to warm up. After our discovery, no matter how hard we beat him, this slave can recover as before. It is really amazing. Having such a slave is a very honorable thing. After hearing this, Swain shook his head ridiculously. As a noble race in the Red Earth continent, he was sold at such a low price. And looking at the slave under the shackles who was still sorting out his wounds, Swain knew that he was probably being abused all the time. The wound has not healed yet. Otherwise, with the recovery ability of the Lunaria clan, the wound will remain. Only a few people in the field changed their expressions. Swain looked at Grey and Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider didn't seem to have changed at all. He was still looking at the host introduction in front of him indifferently. It seemed that the Lunaria clan did not have as many surprises for him as the Devil Fruit. Swain estimated that he came with orders from Marine's senior management, and most of the information was probably unclear, so he seemed very calm. On the other hand, Grey could not help but scream. This is normal. The Vinsmoke family is famous for its technology, mainly researching genes and modifications. The members of his family are all reformers and are powerful, so they can dominate North Blue. Grey stood up directly and said, "This slave has been reserved by the Vinsmoke family." When he came here this time, he didn't take any pictures, just waiting to see if the rumors were true. After he saw that it was the real Lunaria clan, he couldn't bear it anymore and used family pressure to force others to give way. There was silence. The host was a little unhappy. Since the final appearance is to sell at a high price, some people stopped bidding directly, which simply cut off their financial path. He said angrily, "Mr. Grey, please don't break the rules of the venue. It's fair and just, and the one with the highest price wins." She was reminding Grey that there were people from other forces at the venue, not just him. Grey glanced around and saw that some people were already dissatisfied with his arrogance. This isn't North Blue after all. He snorted and sat down in his seat. He didn't bring much high-end combat power with him this time. He might not be able to deal with just a ghost spider, not to mention there are several pirate leaders with bounties worth hundreds of millions on their heads. After seeing that he was calm, the host started the bidding. Lunalia slave. The starting price is 100 million. I'll offer 200 million. Grey shouted instantly. He looked around, and there were only a few people who could look at him. 250 million. One of the pirates with a bounty of over 100 million shouted. 270 million. 300 million. Marine Lieutenant General Ghost Spider called out the price. Swain saw that the price was gradually soaring, and wanted to muddy the waters. 350 million. Swain shouted loudly. Everyone looked back and felt a little angry when they saw a young boy shouting. Even the usually calm Ghost Spider frowned. Seeing such a look, Swain just smiled faintly. They all agreed that Swain was completely the trustee of the auction. Otherwise, how could someone not in the front row dare to bid? Advertisement. The host on the stage was also a little confused, but then he was overjoyed. He thought that if Leng Tu was young, the more she would earn. 500 million. Ghost Spider shouted. This is already his limit. The headquarters will give him 700 million this time. 700 million. Grey called out the price again. It suddenly increased by 200 million. This is probably the highest record in the auction. Yes, I heard that the people behind the auction were lucky and accidentally discovered this slave while extracting oil. This seems to be news from a few years ago, right? Yes, who knew that a little slave at that time could be worth 700 million? Everyone discussed and found out the discovery history of this Lunaria boy. No wonder. I said that with the power of this race, how could it be caught by a force of this level in adulthood? Swain said in his heart. He believed that the force that could seize the adult Lunalia clan members would be at the level of 4 emperors at the very least. With the cry of 700 million belly, the auction venue gradually became quiet. This is already the limit for many people. But that's not Grey's limit. He has the entire Venmox family as his backing, and he can spend even 1 billion. As long as he can get the test subjects of this race. 700 million once, 3 times. Deal. The Lunalia slaves were obtained by Mr. Grey. Then someone gave him a key, which was the key to the prison. Swain looked at the people vying for slaves in the field, their expressions were uncertain, and they seemed to have other ideas. Grey got the key with joy on his face, not caring at all that there were some people with ulterior motives. Thank you all for participating. See you tomorrow. After receiving the payment, the auction organizer left Lotto Manor extremely quickly. Because they know that there may be huge changes in the next few days. They knew the reason behind Huibi's self-incrimination, otherwise they wouldn't be so anxious to auction it off. Really, 5 hours after they left, someone started taking action. But all he did was snatch a black knife from the auction, and the one who took it was a pirate with a bounty of over 100 million. The person who bought this sword is also a pirate. Naturally, no one will care about the fight between pirates, and they can even be expected to lose both sides so that they can reap the benefits. The other side, Swain also received the key to the cage where the Mokai siblings were imprisoned. Hiding in a corner of the cage and hugging each other, they didn't even have the courage to look up at the master in front of them. Okay, you're safe. A young man's voice was heard. Mokai looked up and was stunned when he saw it was Swain. Then he burst into tears. This left Swain speechless. The two brothers seemed to have a grudge against him. Why did they cry when they saw him? The sister on the side was also puzzled. She thought Swain was a bad guy and pulled Mokai's clothes tightly. Sister is okay. Big brother is here to save us. He explained while sobbing. Fortunately, my sister is a sensible person and did not cry. He stood up and tidied himself up and said, "Thank you for your help." Swain looked at her beautiful face, which still had some tears, and she had obviously cried helplessly in the dark night. You're welcome. You go first. This place may be dangerous later. Without further explanation, Swain placed the siblings on the carriage that came before and sent them back to the tavern first. As if to prove his words, they heard gunfire from behind shortly after they left. Brother, will everything be okay? Mokai said worriedly. No, my sister comforted me, but the worry in his eyes could not be concealed. A real battle begins. Advertisement. Chapter 23 Melee. Advertisement. There are 3 parties of people staying in Lotto Manor now. Marine, pirates, and the Vinsmoke family. Gray could feel the danger now. Logically speaking, Marine should leave after the auction. But until now, the ghost spider didn't even make a move, which made him start to become alert. As Marine also eyeing this Lunaria boy, he suddenly thought of something. Vegapunk. Yes, only he has experience in researching this area. After all, Kaido's deputy Jin was once their experimental subject. On the other side, Swain also came to the whirlpool of this storm. The Marines seemed to be gradually surrounding Gray. Swain could clearly see from the outside that the ghost spider was sending troops to surround Gray's location. It seems that Marine is determined to win over this Lunaria boy. Swain analyzed the situation. Since he decided to get involved, he must also get a share of the pie. No matter what happens, he cannot let this young man fall into the hands of any force. Otherwise, if the world government develops more powerful weapons, the world may remain in darkness. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Marine to launch an attack. Swain hid aside and watched the show. Damn it, Ghost Spider, how dare you attack? Do you want to go to war with Germa 66? Gray was furious. He didn't expect the attack to come so quickly, and he didn't even have time to prepare to escape. The Ghost Spider sneered after hearing this, and the ash from his mouth shook off with his smile. So what if we start a war? You are just a bunch of dark, stinky rats. Besides, you can't represent the entire Germa. One of Ghost Spider's lieutenants took the lead in attacking. Suffer death. The adjutant armed the sword in his hand and slashed at Gray. At this time, a short young man also appeared next to Gray, wearing a combat uniform and holding a long scythe in his hand. As soon as the two of them fought, Ghost Spider's adjutant fell into a disadvantage. Lanjiao, point the gun. The adjutant kept changing his moves, trying to disrupt the aura of the enemy in front of him. But the opponent still received the move with ease and was not affected at all. Instead, the young man from Germa seized on a flaw and defeated the enemy with one move. The adjutant rolled down several meters in embarrassment before being rescued by his companions. He is a dead soldier of Germa 66. Naturally, someone recognized who the man in combat uniform was. Dead soldiers. No wonder they even have core technological battle suits. Swain said in the dark. But Ghost Spiders are not that easy to deal with. As one of the strongest lieutenant generals certified by Marine Headquarters, Ghost Spider naturally has his own merits. Finally, the Ghost Spider couldn't help but take action. He used the Marine 6th form, Shave, and came to his opponent's side in one breath. Finger gun. He used the same move, but in just a few rounds, he defeated the opponent. Seeing that it was difficult to deal with the young man, he also changed his tactics and used the Ghost Spider's attack forcefully. Anyway, his defense is very strong, and he will not be defeated by the Marine Lieutenant General in front of him with one move. After a hard punch in the abdomen, it was delayed for a moment. He took the sickle in his left hand and chopped it off with all his strength. Just when he was about to slash the Ghost Spider's neck, an extra hand suddenly appeared, also holding a knife, to resist the blow. Very smart. Ghost Spider smiled contemptuously, but this is far from enough. Suddenly, several more arms appeared behind him, also holding knives, and simultaneously slashed at the enemy in front of him. The dead soldier of Germa was also a little unable to resist, and quickly used a hook lock to pull himself away from the Ghost Spider. Butler, you should leave quickly. I can't deal with the Marine in front of me. I can only delay time for you to escape, said Germa's dead man. Okay. Gray was also decisive at the critical moment. These dead soldiers were originally used for killing people and bodyguards. People behind, take that slave and leave quickly. Gray ordered. Then, Members of Germa immediately took the Lunalia slaves who had been chained and escaped. Seeing that they were about to run away, Ghost Spider quickly commanded, "Soldiers of the Third Company, hurry up and hunt down those who are running away." He originally wanted to go in person, but was blocked by the dead soldiers in front of him. Although the Death Soldier can't defeat the Ghost Spider, fortunately he has a battle suit and his defense power is really amazing. The few times the Ghost Spider struck him were just simple skin wounds. After all, Germa spent a lot of money to train him, so he would not die so easily. Xiaoqiang who can be called immune to death. But the pirates were also fighting with each other. Both sides coveted the treasures in each other's hands and had no time to fight here. The scene was chaotic for a time, and shouts of death were everywhere. Swain was the only one who stayed out of the entire battlefield. Advertisement. But at this time, he had to participate in the battle, because he saw the Lunaria boy appearing. He took advantage of the chaos, looking like a ghost, and quickly caught up to Germa. As they were running away, they saw a young man parked in front of them. "Get out of here." One of them shot Swain several times in the head. However, the falling scene as he expected did not happen. Although the bullet passed through the young man's head easily, as if it hit the water, it recovered instantly. This scene horrified him. Logia ability user. No, it's the enemy. As soon as he finished speaking, Swain pointed him to death. Shotgun. 3 or 4 more shots were fired with his hand, and the people who were shot fell down one after another. This made others gasp. Where did this strong man come from? Gray also noticed the commotion here, got rid of the opponent in front of him, and looked at Swain. Others who were fighting also turned their heads to look at Swain. Seeing all the eyes focused on CC Yin made him feel a little embarrassed. After all, he still has a bit of social anxiety. "Who sent you, Your Excellency?" Gray said while holding back his anger. He didn't expect such a big change to happen in this auction. Now he was about to escape, but was interrupted by Swain in front of him. This made him angry. "No need to ask, I am a pirate and I have no power behind me," Swain said fearlessly. If he wants to be a pirate, he must not be afraid of any force. If he had been a little scared, he wouldn't have become a pirate. "Then please step aside, don't get yourself into too much trouble," Gray warned when he heard that Swain was a pirate. "Sure," Swain readily agreed. "It's just that I want to be alone." He pointed at the Lunalia boy. After being pointed out by Swain, the young man was surprised at first, and then seemed embarrassed, and the wings behind him fluttered. Seeing him in such a panic, Swain obviously felt pitiful for this young man, pitiful that such a powerful talent could be reduced to such a state. Is this the jealousy of talented people? Gray saw that Swain was referring to the Lunaria boy. He immediately refused. Impossible. The voice of rejection sounded at the same time as the Ghost Spider. Obviously, it is impossible for the 3 parties to reach a settlement. Then let your strength speak for itself. Swain will not back down just because the other party is strong behind him. He struck first, appearing behind the Ghost Spider like a ghost, with his legs covered in armed colors. Ghost Spider naturally didn't expect Swain to suddenly take action against him. But his reaction was quick enough, and he shouted, "Iron!" and covered his back with armor color for defense. But even so, he was swept out by Swain. The 6 hands on the Ghost Spider's back quickly grabbed the surrounding walls before it stopped flying backwards. "Lieutenant General, don't let your guard down," Swain said to the Ghost Spider covered by rocks. With a bang, the rocks covering the Ghost Spider flew out. "That's natural," he said a little angrily. The cigarette in his mouth was gone, so he took another one out of his pocket and lit it. Gray took advantage of Swain's fight with the Ghost Spider and had already run hundreds of meters away. "I think you should worry more about the people over there, otherwise neither of us will get what we want," Ghost Spider said. Obviously, he didn't want the Lunaria boy to run away and cause the mission to fail. Swain had long noticed that Gray had taken advantage of the chaos to escape, but everything was under control. His thoughts moved slightly, and a wave circle with a diameter of 1 meter appeared on the sole of his feet, spreading in all directions. Immediately afterwards, there was a steady stream of sea water, rapidly spreading from his feet in the direction of Gray's escape. Sea bound. The spreading speed of the sea water caught up with Gray in less than half a minute. "What's going on? Where did the sea water come from?" the people who escaped exclaimed. The water gradually increased and reached above their knees. Suddenly, several black chains appeared from the sea water, binding the hands and feet of the people running around, making them unable to move. This turn of events shocked them. Where did the chains come from? Then, driven by Swain, the seawater began to reverse, taking them back to the battlefield. Advertisement. Chapter 24 Swain vs. Ghost Spider. Advertisement. "What's going on? Why am I back here again?" Gray said in surprise, unable to move left and right. "It's your fault," Gray said when he saw Swain smiling at him. The Ghost Spider was also surprised when he saw this scene and asked, "Are you a devil fruit user?" Swain didn't hide anything. Sooner or later, Marine would investigate him anyway. Said, "I am a person with abilities who ate the fruits of the ocean." "Ocean fruit," Gray exclaimed. He serves the Vinsmoke family. As the family steward of the Overlord of North Blue, he naturally knows some secrets. The fruit of the ocean has the ability to subvert the sea. It is said that the previous user with this fruit's ability had the ambition to use seawater to break up the entire Red Earth continent and reconnect the world as a whole. As an iconic thing in this world, the Red Earth continent divides the sea into two. At the same time, Pangu City above the Red Earth continent is where the gods of this world live. Want to destroy the Red Earth continent? That would naturally mean going against the world government. So much so that what happened to the ruthless man later was not recorded in history. Little devil, Ghost Spider muttered in a low voice. Then all the arms behind his back began to spread out, and he was about to get serious. Life returned. Including the double knives held in both hands, there were 8 blades in total, which dazzled Swain. Are you here to do acrobatics? Swain said. Ghost Spider didn't say anything, and waved his arms gloomily. The blade flashed with light, and the sharpness made a continuous sound of breaking through the air, the real light and shadow of the sword. Swain covered his hands with weapons and quickly blocked the blows one after another. The Ghost Spider became braver as it fought, but even so it was still difficult to hurt Swain. He seized the opportunity to grab the 2 blades in front of him, and rolled his body backwards, carrying the Ghost Spider's body with him with his huge strength. While the Ghost Spider was still dazed, Swain kicked him horizontally again, hitting him in the head and knocking him away again. High touch kill. The black tentacle pierced his chest, beating him until he coughed up blood and was in a state of utter confusion. The huge force caused him to hit several buildings before stopping. You are no match for me, Swain said. The Ghost Spider crawled up from the rubble with a grin, but this time he covered his entire body with armor. Damn it, you damn brat, he cursed. At this point he turned into a big spider. This is the entire state of the animal-type fruit. The spider's body is pitch black, and its slender legs, which are 3 meters high, appear as powerful as stone pillars. However, what's different from the real spider is that its face is still the same as before. Become a big bug, but it doesn't help. Just try and you will find out. The Ghost Spider raised its foot and stepped on it. Swain dodged and dodged. Bang! A deep hole was left in place. The body gets bigger, but not at a fast pace. Swain knew where his advantage lay, and with his right hand, he charged back and punched the Ghost Spider in the head. But he only stepped back a few positions. This complete state is indeed much more powerful, Swain commented. After Ghost Spider saw Swainton in the air for a moment, he also took the opportunity to attack. One of his feet turned into an arm, and he slashed at Swain with the covered weapon-colored handle. Swain felt the danger, and his body became elementalized in advance, avoiding the blow. The color of knowledge is much better than the Ghost Spider. Swain then counterattacked, his palm facing the Ghost Spider. Sea-bound. Several chains appeared under the Ghost Spider's feet, all of which were formed by the condensation of seawater with armed color. The Ghost Spider quickly trampled several of them with his feet, but was still entangled. In an instant, he felt that half of his strength had been drained away. Several sharp spider legs have turned into arms again, and the shape looks quite weird. What's going on? Why do I feel like I have no strength? He said in a deep voice. But what greeted him was Swain's fierce attack. Swain stood in the air, his right hand straightened, and a 10-meter long hammer gradually formed through his right arm. Advertisement. Armed. In a few breaths, his hammer, which was condensed from seawater, turned pitch black. The still struggling Ghost Spider was frightened when he saw this scene. If he was hit, his skin would be peeled off even if he died. Shoot him. Ghost Spider ordered Marine, who was moving away. He already seemed a little flustered. Marine, who was watching the show, shot at Swain after receiving the order from his commander. But it's all a waste of bullets. They haven't practiced domineering, and they pose no threat to Swain at all. Swain raised the hammer above his head and struck it down. The Ghost Spider suddenly screamed, but it was just some superficial injuries. This animal-type ability user is thick-skinned and thick-skinned, Swain complained. So he pointed with his finger, and a circle appeared around the Ghost Spider. The circle began to fill with seawater, and within a few seconds it had reached the head of the Ghost Spider. When a person with abilities falls into the sea, all his abilities are invalidated and he becomes a normal person. Swain held his right hand and narrowed the circle, trapping the Ghost Spider inside, leaving only one head to come out. The seawater covering the armed color was as solid as cement, making it impossible for him to move. Can you be more honest now? Swain said calmly. Damn it. Ghost Spider couldn't use any strength and could only move his mouth. Gray, who was also bound, saw this scene and had no hope of escaping. After all, even the Ghost Spider fell into Swain's hands. After seeing Swain's tyrannical strength, the Lunaria boy's eyes were full of envy and admiration. I will not give in to you, Ghost Spider said harshly. I know, if you hand over the devil fruit you bought at auction, I can spare your life. Ah, ha 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 ha, Ghost Spider laughed. Do you think I will hand it over? It's just wishful thinking. He still shouted. Swain didn't talk nonsense to him and said, then you can go die. He has no tolerance for his enemies. High touch kill. Once again, he has gathered more tentacles than before. His move is similar to Doflamingo's, God Thread, which uses the same tentacles. Just when Swain was asked to kill the Ghost Spider, there were several dangerous slashes from his back. He quickly turned the direction of his tentacles and collided with those sword slashes. After the exchange of moves, the tentacles were scattered and turned into seawater. Young people, don't be too murderous. At this time, Marine walked out with a long and narrow face, a mustache, and a cloak of justice. Lieutenant General Mole, Swain asked doubtfully. The person who came was none other than Lieutenant General Mole, who came to meet Ghost Spider. Faced with the news about the Lunaria clan, Marine also took it seriously and actually sent two of the strongest lieutenant generals in the headquarters. After he received the signal for help from the Marine members, he rushed over without stopping. Unexpectedly, he also saved his comrades. I didn't expect your excellency to know me. Mole treated him seriously. To be able to beat the Ghost Spider into such a mess, the young man in front of him was very dangerous. This was his first feeling. I think you should be wiser. There will be no good results in going against Marine. Good result. Swain chuckled. Haven't pirates and Marines always been on opposite sides? Are you a pirate? I have never heard of such a new pirate in South Blue. Mole said. The Marine headquarters has bounty orders for all powerful pirates, but there are not many newcomers in his impression like Swain, who can easily defeat the strongest lieutenant general in the headquarters, and Swain is not one of them. Just went to see. Swain answered his doubts. It dawned on the Mole. You have such strength, why not join Marine? He also felt heartbroken. Why are powerful young people willing to be pirates instead of Marines? He has always been puzzled. This has nothing to do with you, Swain said calmly. In his eyes, unless the general came in person, no lieutenant general could subdue him. Of course, Garp is an exception. Advertisement. Chapter 25 New member, Norton. Advertisement. The only exception to Marine's strength is Garp. Relatively speaking, the strength of pirates is actually much greater than that of Marine, but powerful pirates cannot be as cohesive and united as Marine. The only combat power that can be used in the New World is the general. Otherwise, why is New World called Pirate's Paradise? Because Marine has no way to intervene. Back to the battle, the two sides are in a confrontation. However, Swain had no intention of taking action against Lieutenant General Mole, and the other party was also observing Swain's actions. I just want to take this boy away. Swain pointed his finger at the boy from the Lunaria tribe, who was of the same race as Jin. Seeing Mole's hesitation, Ghost Spider said, leave me alone. Complete Fleet Admiral's order first, even if I die in battle. Swish. Swain ripped off his right arm with his tentacles. The Ghost Spider suddenly screamed, sweating on his painful head, and the devil fruit that had been on his body fell to the ground. At this time, there were a few eyes in the dark staring at the fruit, seemingly waiting for an opportunity to make a move. They were naturally the pirates with a reward worth over 100 million, waiting for an opportunity in the dark. Swain can certainly feel it. With a thought, a huge black field spread out around him. It's Conqueror's domineering spirit. The field coverage is slightly weaker. Marines and pirates all fell to the ground and fell unconscious. This is a warning, Swain said in a solemn voice without even turning his head. It was the pirates in the dark who warned the Ghost Spider. Then he pocketed the fruit. Mole also trembled in his heart after feeling this domineering conquerors. The same goes for Ghost Spider. Gray even collapsed to the ground and his mouth turned blue. Seeing Swain break one of Ghost Spider's arms, Mole was angry, but for the sake of the lives of his comrades, he could only bow to this pirate again. Okay, you can take him away. But I also want to take away Lieutenant General Ghost Spider. Can. Swain knocked the Ghost Spider unconscious with a punch from the air. He was really annoyed by the spider's barking. You, Mole said angrily, but due to Swain's strength, he had to give in. Swain felt that he was really angry, and his face and neck were thickly red. Follow me. He took the Lunaria boy who was still confused and left. Wait until you are several kilometers away from the battlefield. Swain asked. What's your name? My name is Hillary Norton. He looked a little intimidated. After all, the strength and decisiveness Swain showed just now really scared him. My name is Swain, don't be nervous. I have no ill intentions. Probably sensing his mood swings, Swain also comforted him. The two continued walking, and when they left Lotto Manor, Norton asked, why did you save me? I'm actually a monster, Norton said matter-of-factly. Seeing his appearance, Swain smiled and said, you look no different from me. But he denies that he is a monster. But you've been saying I'm a monster since I was a kid. Norton said a little irritably. But suddenly I remembered that the young man in front of me was a murderer without blinking an eye. Even his voice became weak at the end. Who said that? I didn't, Swain continued to say with a smile. Advertisement. He smiled because as a member of the same race as Kaido's deputy Jin, the former acted so fiercely, so he seemed so humble to Norton. After all, Jin is a man who is incredibly arrogant in front of Suo Da. Although Norton didn't know why he was smiling, he felt kindness in front of this smile. He was not mocking. Why did you let that Marine go just now? Isn't he your enemy? Norton was referring to letting Mole go. He could see that Swain was strong enough to keep the two of them. Why? Swain pondered for a moment and said, because he is much better than that big spider and is a real Marine for civilians, so I will not kill him. After all, pirates are already overpopulated, but how many pirates like Swain, Luffy, Roger, are there who just want freedom? Probably 1 in 10,000. What they want more is money, power. If we were to kill all these Marines, then the world would be in real chaos. After all, Marine is really protecting civilians at this time, even though he has done many wrong things under the control of the world government. But we can't erase his achievements. Hearing this answer, Norton was stunned. The eyes he looked at Swain were gradually filled with tears. He had been wandering all over his life, but he always remembered Marine who gave him a mouthful of food when he was a child. Hey, little brat, where is your family? Quote. Quote. Okay, I know, then come to my house and let me be your brother. Ha 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 ha. Looks like I have to feed you milk, Lulu, Lulu, Lulu. The brother with his hands on his hips and always smiling appeared in his mind again. But one day he was killed by his companions because of money, but he still took the credit for his brother's work and continued to live freely. He was so desperate that he hated Marines since then. He felt worthless for his brother. He vowed to kill all Marines in his life. Now, I know the answer from the mouth of the young man in front of me. It turns out, there is a Marine who is just like an older brother. And the smile of the person in front of me is like his brother who is already in heaven. People who love to laugh always look alike when they smile. Swain saw Norton's tears welling up like spring water, and knew that this boy, whose clothes were in tatters and whose body stinked from not having a bath, had suffered a lot. He gave the traumatized boy a simple hug. This moment. Norton couldn't bear it any longer and expressed his thoughts loudly. I want to have a place where everyone is equal. No plague, no discrimination, no war. At this moment, he told Swain, a stranger, about the childhood dream he had hidden more than 10 years ago except for his brother. Swain also faced Norton seriously. Will you come to my ship? I will take you to find a country like this. If we can't find it, we will build such a country. Believe me, Norton also wiped away tears when he heard Swain's words. He nodded heavily and agreed to Swain's invitation. This is also the promise of these two men. A promise that will never change. Swain was also overjoyed when he saw Norton nodding. He originally did not want the world government to obtain the Lunalia genome and create more powerful clone weapons. The boy in front of him, who was just like him, had seen the darkness of this world. That's why I yearn for the arrival of light so much. Now the agreement between the two parties has become the bond between the captain and the crew. The talents of the Lunaria tribe also made Swain look forward to the rise of this young man and to the time when he would conquer the sea. The addition of Norton has also made Swain's strength even higher. He is now a real pirate, looking sincerely at this new member, a pirate who truly has companions. Advertisement. Chapter 26 Departure, a new journey. Advertisement. As for the other Grey, Swain wanted to get rid of him before leaving, but he thought too much trouble would not be a good thing. After all, the other party is the butler of the North Blue Overlord, although killing him is very simple. But troubles will definitely keep happening in the future. Considering that his pirate group was still in its infancy, he was handed over to Marine to resolve the conflict. It was already late at night when Swain and Norton returned to the tavern. The lights in the room had been turned off, so he knocked on the door. As a result, no one responded. Swain and Norton looked at each other. Did someone else take him away again? Swain felt a little worried when he thought of this. Holding the door lock in his hand, he broke the lock with a little force. As soon as the door opened, Swain was slapped in the face. Wow, we hit the wrong person, it's the big brother. Little Modi said excitedly when he saw Swain coming back. Sister, don't worry, it's the big brother. The two brothers took Swain's hands and walked into the house. Although Norton looked a little strange following Swain, they were equally excited to invite him into the house. I'm sorry, Mr. Swain. My brothers and I have caused trouble for you. My sister bowed to apologize. Swain quickly waved his hand, indicating that this matter was not worth mentioning. Swain enthusiastically introduces his new crew member Norton to them. Wow, is the eldest brother a pirate? Brother Mo Kai said with admiration. That's right, then can I become a pirate in the future? Of course, but you can't drink milk as a pirate. Mo Kai's face was surprised and showed disbelief. This made them laugh and the scene became warm. This also allowed Norton to experience a real smile. Late at night, Swain secretly got up while everyone was sleeping. As soon as he turned around, he saw Norton sitting awake on the side. Asked in a low voice, "You want to go out? Well, you can go with me." Then the two left quietly. Swain was flying in the air, followed by Norton. His speed was not slow, and the pair of wings behind him were born for speed. We have to do something. Kill, Swain said flatly. Norton didn't think much and kept following Swain. Now that this person has been identified, he will not betray him. This is the tradition of the Lunaria clan. Just like the moment Jin was defeated by Zoro, he still believed that Kaido would win. This is the loyalty engraved in their bones. When it comes to killing, Norton can't be regarded as a novice. Their family is born to be the king of fighting. Since the death of his brother, his killing has not stopped, but he only kills those who hurt him. We're here. Swain stopped above a warehouse. At this time, the lights were still brightly lit below, and noisy sounds could still be heard in the warehouse. Jeering, crying and piercing screams came one after another. It will make people feel like entering hell. Swain came here today to destroy this devil's cave. He landed in front of the warehouse door, and Norton stepped away from him and stood behind him. The sudden appearance of the two people naturally attracted the attention of the guards. Who are you? The guard asked. However, they didn't wait for an answer, and the two people still walked in at will. I'm asking you a question. His voice gradually became louder. At the same time, other guards also noticed the movement here and moved closer. Seeing that Swain did not answer, the guard lost patience and loaded the bullet. Advertisement. Just when he was about to shoot, a dark shadow suddenly flashed in front of his eyes, so fast that he couldn't even see clearly. Then his consciousness gradually became blurred. Bang. There was a sound of the head falling to the ground, and the aorta in the neck was still spraying blood wantonly. It was Norton who took action. To deal with such a person, he would cut off his head with iron wings without any hesitation. Shoot. Shoot quickly. Seeing how easily this gray-haired man killed his accomplices, everyone behind them also panicked. Shoot at them quickly. But the bullets can't cause any harm to them at all. After several of them saw that even the bullets were useless, they simply dropped their guns and ran away. But can you run away? At some point a large seawater appeared under their feet, making them unable to move. Norton flapped his wings behind him and rushed towards the people imprisoned by the sea at extremely fast speeds. In just 3 breaths, nearly 100 heads fell to the ground. They were all shocked to death. There was also a sound of yelling and cursing coming from inside the warehouse. Has everything been resolved? After hearing the gunfire stop, a man in a suit and ties appeared. It turned out to be the human trafficker Hansen who forcibly sold Mokai and the others. When he saw the scene outside, he fell to the ground, his legs were shaking, his trousers were wet, and he was so scared that he peed. No longer as arrogant as before, Swain walked over and said in a kind tone, "Are you the boss here? I'm here to buy some things." I'm not. Yes, it's me. I wonder what your noble lord wants to buy. I have all kinds of women here, including little girls. They are all given to you, you can choose from them. Hansen almost burst into tears. He is so afraid of death at this moment. He feels like his destiny is being controlled by others. Swain patted his head. Of course I'm buying your head, he said with a smile. When the words fell into Hansen's ears, it was like the king of hell was calling his name. Suddenly, a round sea blue hood appeared on his head, wrapping his head. It was filled with sea water, and he felt like he was falling into the sea and couldn't breathe. I pulled at it with both hands, but couldn't break it, it was as hard as steel. Let's go. Go and rescue the people inside, Swain said with Norton behind him. Hansen was left rolling on the ground, about to suffocate, but after Swain took a few steps, the ocean blue hood exploded. A headless body fell. Early the next morning. Have you heard? There was a flood yesterday and Hansen's slave factory was completely washed away. Is it fake? If there really is a flood, how come a cousin of mine who lives there is fine? I saw him out shopping early this morning. It's true. The sea water will only disperse Hansen's slave factory. Everyone was discussing. That's really an eye-opener for God. I really hope this beast is drowned. One person cursed. But he didn't know that Hansen's body had been washed into the sea and fed to fish, and it was probably turned into feces by now. When Sister Modi told the 2 little brothers the news, they were not too happy. Mr. Swain is gone, the sister realized. The 2 brothers nodded. He also left us some money. When my sister found out, she looked at the sky gratefully. In her mind, after Swain saved them, he had long been the god she once believed in. But Swain had already left Yuan town. He was lying on a small boat, sunbathing. We still need a big ship. Let's go to the water city to find a shipwright. Advertisement. Chapter 27 Water City. Advertisement. The City of Water. It is a world-famous island. Its popularity is basically the same as that of Judiciary Island, but it is more focused on shipbuilding. And in this era of great pirates, his popularity will even be higher. It took Swain and Norton nearly a month to sail from South Blue to Judiciary Island. Swain was not idle during this month and began to give Norton classes. He wants to teach Norton how to use Haki. After all, no matter how powerful you are innately, you will not be able to use domineering energy, and you will never step into the ladder of being strong. Fortunately, Norton is worthy of being a god, native of the original Red Earth continent. He learns new things very quickly, and he already had a unique understanding of these 2 types of domineering before. He just lacked someone to guide him. Under Swain's guidance, he was able to use the weapon color and the knowledge color in just 1 month. It made him feel that this was really infuriating. It took me half a year to learn it. In fact, it is estimated that it will take half a month to travel at normal speed, but Swain has already eaten all the food prepared in advance, and Norton is also seasick. Yes, he got seasick. Swain had no choice but to use his fruit power to speed up the sea water, saving half a month to reach the water capital. As soon as I stepped onto the island, people gathered around me enthusiastically. Is this the first time for these 2 brothers to come to the capital of 7 waters? A young man with a ruddy complexion came up and said. Swain nodded, while Norton behind him had an indifferent expression. The young man took a look at the special-looking Norton behind him and felt that it was not easy to deal with him, and he didn't have a hot face to stick to a cold butt. My name is Burke. I am a resident of Water City. Let me take you wherever you want to go. He introduced himself to Swain. My name is Swain. He also introduced himself. He wasn't worried that anyone would recognize him. It would take at least 2 months for Mole and Ghost Spider to return to their headquarters, and they would have to stop by various marine branches in the meantime. The overall time may be longer. It is estimated that Swain's reward order will not be finalized until Swain leaves the Water City. Is this brother here to customize a ship or a weapon? Burke asked. Swain didn't expect that there were custom-made weapons here, but think about it, if you can make ships, why not make weapons? Is there any well-known weapons workshop here? Swain asked, and then handed Burke a tip. When Burke saw the money given, he was immediately overjoyed. He responded positively. Brother, don't worry. I know everything about the Water City. Just ask me the right question. The most famous weapons workshop here is Luke's workshop. The most famous shipbuilder is Mr. Tom, but, he leaned over and whispered, he was arrested by the agents for manufacturing sea trains. His disciple Carter French now runs the shipyard. Swain naturally knows this. Tom built the Ore Jackson and carried Roger to complete the mission of sailing the Grand Line. He was also targeted by the world government because of this incident, and was captured and executed by CP0 agents soon after. Burke introduced that Luke is a real forging master, and every year many big shots come to him to customize weapons. He waved his hand and asked Burke to lead the way to Luke's weapons shop, and asked for part of the map of the Seven Waters capital. He originally wanted all of it, but Burke insisted that he only had half of it. Thinking that this was probably his job and it was impossible to give him all the maps to this stranger, he gave up. He is going to the weapons shop to make something for Norton that can hide his identity. Because his Lunaria identity is too conspicuous. When you are not strong enough, you will naturally have to hide for him for a period of time. Even though he was as powerful as Kaido, Jin still couldn't hide his face. After having his helmet chopped off by Zoro, he killed everyone who saw his face. Soon after, Burke took them to Luke's weapons shop. Swain gave him another tip, and he left here wisely. Is Master Luke at home? Swain asked politely. Advertisement. I saw an old man polishing parts inside the house, very seriously, and he didn't seem to hear even Swain asked him. Swain had no choice but to ask again. But the old man still didn't answer, sitting in front of the unpolished parts. Seeing how ignorant the old man was, Norton became a little angry, thinking that he was humiliating Swain. He was about to step forward to question, but was held back by Swain. He shook his head no. Then he politely withdrew and said he would come visit again tomorrow. Tomorrow will still be the same scene as yesterday, and Norton was so angry that he said he would give this old man some good looks. Same thing on the third day. After all, he is a well-known forging master, but he still hasn't said a word even after 3 visits. This is a bit disrespectful. Swain also began to feel angry in his heart. According to his words, he said it again and again and again and again. He decided to go again tomorrow. If he was still so disrespectful, he would acquiesce to Norton to teach him a lesson and let him understand that not every pirate treats him like a guest. When the third day came, the old man was still sitting there polishing parts. Is Master Luke here? The old man looked at Swain again and finally said, this old man is Luke. What kind of weapon do you want to build? Finally spoke. If he didn't answer, Swain would go up to see if he was deaf-mute, and if not, he would just beat him up. I'm going to build a suit of armor. Luke looked at the 2 young men in front of him, he was a little interested. Forging armor. Is it for the one on the left? Swain looked surprised, and Norton became wary. It seemed like he was about to take action at any time. Ha ha ha, don't be nervous. Luke laughed. The atmosphere relaxed a little. The master is really discerning, Swain said. However, he was unusually calm and couldn't tell whether it was a compliment or a warning. Swain had already guessed that the old man knew that Norton was from the Lunalia tribe when he saw him. Could such a person be a simple person? I once made a pair of armor for someone similar to this boy. Luke seemed to be reminiscing, and added, but now he is afraid that, he has already made a decision to deviate from this suit of armor. Norton was confused, but Swain understood it clearly. The suit of armor on Kyonjin was also made by him. As for the last words he said, the purpose of building this armor at that time was to protect Jin, but when Jin became stronger, he was to suppress the civilians for the people of Kaido and the country of flesh and blood. The country of Wano is not a member of the world government, so it naturally has no power to resist when faced with such a force. I guess I had such resentment for ignoring them before. Fortunately, Swain's attitude made him feel that they were not people like Kaido and Jin. Guess these things and connect them together to know the answer. Then the old gentleman is willing to build it for us? Swain asked. His tone also softened a lot. Of course, it's still worth taking action to save someone's life. But, advertisement. Chapter 28 Battle with CP9. Advertisement. But, Luke paused and added, but I'm afraid there aren't many materials to make armor now. It turns out it was just a lack of materials. Swain said. Where can I buy the materials? You can't buy it anymore. He shook his head. It made Swain and Norton confused. After all, it was his own business, so Norton still asked, why can't I buy it? Only then did Luke explain what happened. It turns out that every year, a portion of the ships and weapons produced in the Water City will be distributed to the world government and marine. This resulted in an extreme shortage of materials. These 2 big forces alone took 60% of the money as part of the franchise fee. The remaining 40% has been sold as weapons. Seeing that Swain and Norton were both disappointed, Luke pointed them to another path, the black market. It can be said that there is a black market everywhere, especially on a prosperous island like the Water City, where there is no shortage of it. In the afternoon, Swain followed Luke's instructions and bought 800 kilograms of materials from the black market. Luke and Swain agreed to come to the armor in a week. After paying the deposit, I found a place to stay and talked to Norton. I saw members of CP9 on the black market today. In the past few days, you have to wear a mask to disguise yourself. Norton nodded after hearing this, knowing that his identity was very sensitive. If the world government found out, they would probably send more powerful people to arrest him. While they were talking, a man was walking in the air, observing the crowd below, seeming to be looking for something. If Swain saw him, he would definitely recognize him. This person is Kaku, a member of CP9. Someone reported that two strange people came to the island. I'm afraid they may be related to Bingshan. We need to investigate carefully. He said to himself. He was sent down to supervise Bingshan and wait for an opportunity to snatch the Pluton design from Bingshan. Bingshan, the mayor of the Water City, and Frankie's senior brother. Norton on the other side put on a mask, and Swain separated from him after explaining what happened. Swain went to the Carrera Boat Company to build a boat. He was asked by Swain to stay at his residence, but as he had just returned to normal life, he gradually let go. After all, he was only 19 years old, and he was as curious about the outside world as a normal adult. Unable to bear the loneliness, he slipped out. First he walked outside to experience a different life. Then he found a pub to drink. His biggest hobby was drinking. This was the only thing that could make him forget his troubles during the darkest time of his life. Serve this guest another drink. Bruno, the tavern owner, ordered. I saw several layers of wine glasses stacked up on the table. The surrounding guests also admired him. This guy is so awesome. He didn't even fall down after drinking so much. It has to be said that the Lunaria clan has a strong physique, and they were not a little drunk until it got dark. Norton knew it was time to leave when it got dark. The boss, Bruno, was cleaning the glasses and was about to close the door when he saw Norton was leaving. But when he walked to the door, he found that there was no sign of that person on the left and right roads. There was the sound of flapping wings in the sky. Looking up, his eyes were full of solemnity. It was Norton flying in the sky. This is definitely a characteristic of the Lunaria clan. He had already felt like that special race when Norton took off his mask. It's just that the wings hid it well so that he didn't notice it, and there were many people with the same hair color and skin color. Without wings, there was no doubt that they were of that race. Now that it was confirmed, he naturally had to report it to his superiors. Bruno's true identity is one of the members of CP9 who has the ability of the door fruit. He closed the door of the tavern and reopened it. The scene inside was no longer a tavern, but a conference room. On the other hand, it was a little strange for Swain not to see Norton when he returned to his residence. Fortunately, after waiting for a while, I saw him flying back alone. Yo, Captain, Norton said drunkenly. Why did you get cloned? Advertisement. He threw himself to one side, but missed. Then he fell directly to the ground and fell asleep. This made Swain dumbfounded after seeing it. Although the other party did not listen to his words and stayed where he was and went to drink, he was not angry. If you obey his orders in everything, wouldn't you be considered a subordinate? What kind of companion? He has been getting along with Norton for more than a month, so naturally he knows a little about him. He's not the kind of person who would betray, so just let him be. Anyway, he was keeping him in check, which unleashed Norton's nature and further promoted the relationship between the captain and the crew. Just like Whitebeard and Ace, Roger and Rayleigh, Redhair and Beckman, Luffy and Zoro, didn't even Kaido and Jin do this. Just let him be. On the contrary, he is an empty shell as the captain, and his crew can just treat him as a friend. However, trouble started at noon the next day. Bang! A man flew out of the house. How dare you come for a sneak attack like this? Norton said mockingly. The person who was knocked out was Carter, the user with the Neu fruit ability. Lucci, hurry up, Carter shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, two people appeared behind Swain and attacked him. It is CP9 leader Rob Lucci and member Bruno. Bruno used his fruit ability to teleport them behind Swain and Norton. It was obvious that this was a carefully planned assassination. But Swain reacted extremely quickly. He instantly used his ability to form a shield with seawater to protect himself and Norton. The shield was shattered by Lucci's kick, but they did not suffer any damage. Seeing that the sneak attack failed, Lucci also distanced himself from Swain. Not bad, Swain praised. Being able to shatter his defensive shield, Lucci really has some strength. But not much. Very strong, Lucci said in a serious voice. He didn't expect that even a sneak attack couldn't kill the opponent. In fact, their assassination was arranged too hastily. He was assassinated without even investigating Swain's strength. It's not their fault. In fact, Swain didn't even have a reward order at this time, and their target was Norton. But I didn't expect that there was someone even more powerful. But even without Swain, Norton can still kill them. Swain and Norton are not as strong as Luffy when he had a 100 million bounty on his head. Point the gun. Lucci disappeared from sight and suddenly appeared from a door. This is Bruno and Lucci cooperating. This appearance in the form of fruit makes it difficult to predict what you will see and hear. If it had been anyone else, they might have fallen into their hands, but they were facing Swain, not some cat or dog. I saw Swain using the same move. But the one difference is that he used the arm-colored flowing cherry blossoms to cover his fingers. As soon as the two-finger guns clashed, Lucci was sent flying away. This change happens in an instant. Then Norton also reacted. You treat me as a decoration. Homaju. Norton threw his right hand at Bruno, and a fireball half the height of a man hit Bruno, who was still cooperating with Luki to beat Swain. Poor tool man Bruno really forgot that there was a Lunaria tribe here. He was immediately hit by the fireball and his upper body was burnt. After Carter saw it, he also used shaving to teleport to Bruno's side. Lanjiao. Only then did the fireball dissipate and resist Norton's attack. Advertisement. Chapter 29. Are you going to become a sinner? Advertisement. Lu Chi also felt the pressure from them. Almost all the high-end combat power of the entire CP9 team has been pulled over by him. The current situation is that if there is a slight change, the whole army will be annihilated. Retreat. He decided immediately. Carter and Bruno also retreated immediately after hearing this. Stop Bruno first, Swain shouted. Norton flapped his wings vigorously and attacked the person closest to him. The wings swung out a sharp slash, but it was still a step too late. Because Norton hit the wrong person. It's not his fault, after all, he doesn't know which one of the three is Bruno. He thought Swain asked him to stop the strongest person. A door appeared behind the three of them at the same time, allowing them to escape. Damn it, Swain secretly hated it. I feel that this great opportunity has been wasted. It may not be easy to deal with these eagle dogs in the future. Why are there only 3 of them here? Where are the others? Norton couldn't help but wonder. If everyone comes, there will definitely be someone left to take care of. Just as Swain was about to answer him, he suddenly remembered something. Yes, they must have discussed the plan together. What about the others? Iceberg, Pluton, drawings. They split up. One team came to capture Norton, and the other team must have gone to find the iceberg. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. According to the original plot, their action against the iceberg would not take place until 2 years later. That was what happened when Luffy came to the Water City, so the blueprints naturally didn't fall into CP9's hands. Now his arrival, like the butterfly effect, is likely to change this outcome. If the blueprint really falls into the hands of the world government, I am afraid that with Vegapunk's cleverness, he will be able to create a replica. At that time, I am afraid it will be difficult for anyone to challenge the status of world government. To be precise, it is the status of a celestial dragon. Go out to the port and guard it first. If they escape from the island, they will definitely get there. After giving the instructions, Swain flew out like a cannonball. He has to get to the iceberg in time. Hope it's too late. Swain prayed silently in his heart. This world must be liberated. He doesn't want the world government's power to increase qualitatively because of this incident, otherwise he will be a sinner. Push the time forward 10 minutes. At this time, Swain was still fighting with Lu Chi. Water City, inside the mayor's office. Bingshan, who was wearing a formal suit, was handling business when someone knocked on the door outside. Bingshan looked at the time on his watch. It was already noon. What else could be done at this time? Please come in. The person who came was a beautiful lady, wearing black-rimmed glasses, wearing black stockings on her long white legs, with golden hair hanging on her shoulders, and her chest was wavy as she walked. It looks very tempting. Oh, it turns out to be Khalifa. Do you have anything to ask me about now? Bingshan couldn't help but ask. Khalifa is his secretary, so it is normal to approach him if you have something to do at this time. She said in a clear voice, Mr. Mayor. I want something. She was halfway through speaking, but stopped talking. Bingshan was a little surprised when he saw this scene. What happened to Khalifa, who usually does things neatly and neatly? Are you in heat? It shouldn't be at this time, right? Bingshan was filled with doubts. But his face was still formal and he said, whatever you want, you might as well tell me if I can help you. Of course you can help me. Please give me the design drawing. Khalifa also said straightforwardly. Bingshan was shocked, but his face remained calm. Advertisement. He said calmly. You are talking about the design drawings of the new house. The designer will send them over this afternoon. Khalifa took out his pistol and pointed it at the iceberg. What are you doing? Put down the gun quickly, don't mess around. Bingshan scolded. In fact, he also guessed something in his mind. Lord Mayor, stop pretending to be confused. Hand over Pluton's design and you can live. Khalifa simply said with a face. But Bingshan is still pretending to be confused. Nudori, come here and help the mayor tighten up. Khalifa said. At this time, another man with a fat body, long white hair hanging down to the ground, and thick white foundation on his face came in. Yo, Khalifa, you did a good job. Natsutori said. He tied Bingshan up with a rope. Bingshan was completely powerless against the 2 agents. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry and tie him up and ask him where the blueprints are hidden. Khalifa said impatiently. Yo ye, don't be so angry. The mantra for snuggling is, yo, but at this moment Khalifa sounds irritated. Old boy, hand over the drawings to me quickly, otherwise our CP9 will not let you go. Nuri said fiercely. But his performance at the moment made Bingshan look a little funny, like a clown. Bang bang bang. Khalifa punched him 3 times, causing 3 small hills to swell up on his head. Idiot, don't reveal your identity. Khalifa was obviously very angry, and her chest was rising and falling. Bingshan laughed at this funny scene. When Natsutori saw Bingshan laughing at him, he was also angry and decided to show him some humor. But Bingshan saw an opportunity, stood up from the office chair, knocked Nudie away with his head, broke the glass sideways and jumped down from the building. After seeing it, Khalifa and Natsutori also jumped down from the building and chased the iceberg. Bingshan jumped downstairs and shouted while running, "Come quickly. There is an assassin to assassinate the mayor." But it was noon, people had already returned home from get off work, and there was no one around. "Don't waste your efforts. You can't run away," Natsuri said arrogantly. The iceberg also tripped over something and fell to the ground. Everything seemed to be leaning towards Khalifa. And she is also confident that she can find out the whereabouts of the design drawings from Bingshan's mouth. Bingshan was also worried and regretted that he had laid off all the security guards. Although even if there are no layoffs, facing two CP9 agents, it will still be an unsolvable situation. At this moment, a person fell from the sky at high speed, and the impact caused huge dust around them. I saw a handsome and tall young man standing in front of the iceberg, protecting him behind him. "Caught up," Swain said in surprise. After seeing a person intruding in the middle of the way, Natsutori shouted, "Hey, where did you come from, little devil, get out of here." Khalifa also frowned and said, "You rude guy, get out of my sight quickly. Or I'll let you taste how good I look." Swain looked at the beauty in front of him and couldn't help but joked, "Can you really let me taste you?" Hole. She did a backflip, trying to penetrate Swain's jaw with the sharpness of her high heels. But Swain grabbed her long legs and couldn't move. As long as Swain glances downward, everything about her will be exposed to him. But he didn't have the intention to look at it. "You are sexually harassing me," Khalifa said with a red face. "Swain, throw her out." Nayutori also took the opportunity to sneak attack Swain. "Point the gun." Swain didn't even look at him. He stamped his foot, and a powerful wave of air knocked Nuri away. "Are you okay?" Swain asked. "No. Nothing, thank you," Bingshan said. Looking at the fierce man who saved him in front of him, Bingshan felt that this day was really magical. Not far from the water city, a tall and thin man was gradually approaching the water city. He was riding a bicycle, and the water under the wheels formed thick ice. Advertisement. Chapter 30 Kuzan, Norton's Crisis. Advertisement. "Thank you." Bingshan thanked him. "My name is Bingshan, and I am the mayor of Water City. My name is Swain, from South Blue." Swain also Kaido. Bingshan thought about the name carefully, but he had never heard of it. Then Swain's sudden appearance surprised him. He first found a phone booth and transferred some security guards from elsewhere to guard the municipal building. Then the conversation with Swain continued. "Brother, do you know what they are?" he asked tentatively. "Of course I know, they also attacked my companions. But it's a pity that they escaped." Swain thought it was a pity. Bingshan was stunned for a moment, thinking that it was normal for Swain to be able to defeat CP9 with the strength he showed just now. "Are you curious as to why I suddenly appeared to save you?" Swain asked, standing there. Bingshan also stopped and nodded. He was indeed a little curious. "Pluton." Swain just said two words slowly. In an instant, Bingshan's expression changed drastically. If the young man in front of him had the same purpose and plot, I'm afraid he wouldn't be so lucky this time. However, after the conversation became cold for a moment, he saw that Swain showed no signs of taking action. Then Swain walked with him and talked. "I know there simply weren't enough of them when we found out they were attacking us. That's why I infer that some people must be running towards you." Swain's explanation was reasonable, and he was relieved that he didn't ask for the Pluton blueprint after saving the iceberg. Then Bingshan looked at Swain a little strangely. As a spy organization, it was understandable that CP9 knew that he had the blueprint. But Swain knew he had it, so he was a little confused. Is it possible that the fact that I have Pluton's design drawings has gone viral? He thought about it carefully, and it seemed that except for his junior brother Frankie, no one else had mentioned it at all. Of course Swain won't explain this to him. "Do you want to tell him that I came from time travel? That will definitely be regarded as a lunatic." At this moment, there was a boom, like the sound of a bomb. Immediately afterwards there were two attacks rising into the sky, one was a huge icicle, and the other was a huge fire dragon. As soon as the two met, they began to kill each other. Something happened out of the port. Bingshan shouted. He no longer had his usual steady state, and these successive changes really made him a little nervous. Swain also pondered after hearing that that direction was out of the port, and now there was Norton. This fire dragon was naturally sent out by him, and this icicle. I'm afraid the only one who can appear here is Marine General Kuzan. The future is here. Swain was also a little worried. After all, it was not good news for the general to come at this time. And the only one who can bring Kuzan over is Spandam, who is favored by him. After all, Kuzan is very free and likes to ride his bicycle everywhere. Listening to the sound of fighting coming from the other side, Swain was also ready to go over. After all, Norton didn't have the strength to compete with the general. Then goodbye. He said goodbye to Bingshan briefly and quickly flew out of the port. Bingshan's eyes widened. Why can this person fly? Out of the port, Norton was now fighting against General Kuzan. Ah la 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 la, I really met an incredible guy today. Kuzan said to Norton. Who are you? Norton looked at the enemy in front of him warily. He is very strong. This is the first time since the captain that he has met a man who gives him a sense of oppression. Me, Kuzan pointed at himself and shrugged lazily. A nobody. He wore a pair of sunglasses and put one hand in his pocket while speaking. Cool look. Advertisement. But seeing the other party like this, Norton was also annoyed. It was obvious that the other party had been very lazy since the fight. Norton felt humiliated. If Kuzan could hear Norton's thoughts, he would probably say, "Why are you so lazy? It's been like this for so many years, right?" Norton then prepared a new counterattack. He took a step back and rose into the air. The wings vibrated in the air, causing sounds to break through the air. I saw his hands pressing forward, and circles of flames appeared, gradually growing from small to large in his hands. He understood that the enemy in front of him was likely to be as powerful as the captain, or even stronger. It's his most powerful killing move right from the start. Wait until the flames gradually gather into a huge flame cloud. He roared, "Fire Lord." After his voice fell, the flame gradually transformed into a king holding a sharp sword. Bad pheasant mouth. Kuzan also became serious. A thick cold air came out of his body, and then a huge iceberg appeared. As soon as the two sides fought, the flames were quickly melted. But within a moment, the bird's shape was gone. Norton's Fire Lord is even better. But the general's strength goes far beyond that. Little glacier. Kuzan also made a move. The cold air on his body spread directly from the ground to the surroundings, and the seawater with a radius of 300 to 400 meters turned into ice in an instant. And he reached forward with his right hand, and a 1-meter-long icicle stopped in the air, and then gradually began to freeze at the stop, gradually forming an encirclement. Norton's Flame King was also defeated steadily by Kuzan's Little Glacier move, and finally disappeared completely. Norton was already feeling exhausted. He had consumed too much. But Kuzan didn't look tired at this moment, and he was quite energetic compared to just now. "You are very strong," Kuzan said. Norton was also shocked when he heard it. He was a little conceited. "I thought I could be invincible with my talent. Only when you really face a strong person will you know your own weakness." "It's over." Ice Cube Thorn Spear. Hundreds of ice spears appeared behind Kuzan. "Let's kill Norton together." Norton was extremely fast and dodged the first few ice spears that arrived. But he still couldn't handle the large number. He was stabbed in the arm and suffered some skin trauma. "Ah la la la, is the defense really strong?" Kuzan was also surprised after seeing it. After all, he has domineering energy attached to his ice spear. The defense capability of that race is really as powerful as the legend says. I saw a few more hits, and the flames behind Norton suddenly dimmed a bit. As a result, a deep wound suddenly penetrated his leg. As a general, Kuzan is naturally powerful in seeing and hearing, and he caught this small detail at once. As that's so, as a general, he knew more. He also knew some of the characteristics of the Lunalia clan, but he had never met a strong person from this clan. He gathered a few more and thrust them out when Norton's flame dimmed. Sure enough, Norton was more seriously injured than when the flames were strong. "This will make it much easier." His voice sounded a little lazy. "End it." Ice arrows. This time it was not ice spears, but hundreds of arrows. Norton had just cut off the ice spear when he saw so many arrows. He was in an even worse mood. If he hadn't died in this round of attacks, he would have been seriously injured. If you were tied up with sea tower stones. Norton didn't dare to think about it anymore. Just when he was about to fight, a voice ignited his hope. Hey, Aokiji. My new crew member can't be injured like this by you. That would disgrace me. Advertisement.